So there is a group of 6 people, and it's 2 people from each bunker. So it's cross bunkers. It's perceived as the strongest threat as a guy, and the strongest threat as a girl from each bunker.
What?
Yes, and it was created. Lee created it early on in the game, and the shared goal was to protect one another so they can get deep in the game and keep threats in the game.
Yes, twerk.
So the
Okay, we can hear you, so please cast your vote to evict.
I vote to evict Quinn.
Thank you very much.
'74, '73, '72, '71, '70s, '69, nice. '68, '67, '67, '66, '65, '64.
I just won HOH on double eviction week. What's up? We are about to go after Justin, Matt, and Caroline. They've been working together since the very beginning, and they're about to get taken out. From that point forward, it's me, Trey, and Abby. We've got the numbers. We're going Final Four. I'm about to win this whole friggin' game. Let's go!
Gosh, what is that?
Anthony, I can tell you that you have won the power of veto. Congratulations. Congrats, Anthony.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, I feel so good.
Kaylee tried so hard to take me out this week. And you know what, Kaylee? Since you love songs, I have one for you. As you know, next time you take a shot, make sure you hit.
The reason I put Daniel up next to Ian is for 2 reasons. One, it makes my side look like he's the real nominee. It makes the other side look like he's a pawn. Ian's a pawn. Daniel's a pawn. Everyone's a pawn. I'm a pawn. You're a pawn. We're all pawns. But if Daniel goes, that splits up the we're not a couple that is Sarah and Daniel. Can't lie to me.
What's in a title? Is it simply a victory won? Or does claiming a title mean more?
and the winner of Big Brother Hometown Season 9. Kieran, congratulations.
Is it in the hard work it takes to climb the mountain to reach the top? The bumps, bruises, and scars accumulated along the way.
And the winner of Big Brother Hometowns Season 14. Congratulations to Ryan R.T. Taylor. You have won Big Brother Hometowns 14. Congratulations.
Is it in the adversity overcome, the obstacles cleared, the opponents defeated?
And the winner of Big Brother Hometowns 15 Second Chances. Congratulations, Blake. You have won.
In order to claim a title, you must be willing to take what is rightfully yours and take it from the hands of those who tried to take you down along the way.
And the winner of Big Brother Hometowns Season 13. Congratulations. Crystal, you have won Big Brother Hometowns Season 13.
Oh my god.
It's the pinnacle of competition, the reason you play, the prize at the end of the long and narrow road.
And the winner of Big Brother Hometowns Season 8. Congratulations to Gray Price. You have just won Big Brother Hometowns.
But here's the thing about titles. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, they can only belong to one. 1 month ago, 16 brand new house guests entered the BBH house in search of that title. In a battle for power, safety, and control, Stan, Robbie, Michael, Claudia, Bridget, Jacob, Veronica, Kelly, Anwar, Jimbo, Kadri, Louise, and Jeff were evicted from the house, leaving us with our final three: Elise, Caro, and Olivia. Tonight, one of these three will take home the illustrious title of BBH 16 champion and the $200 to the charity of their choice. Who will win? Who will lose? It all happens tonight live on the Big Brother Hometowns Season 16 finale. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Brother Hometowns Season 16 finale. I am so excited that you are here. We have a big audience already watching with us tonight. We have a lot to get to tonight. I'm ready to get to it. My name is Josh Consalvo. I am the host of Big Brother Hometowns, along with a lovely production team who you'll meet some of here in a moment. But tonight is the finale. Tonight, we are going to crown a final HOH. That HOH is then going to cast the final eviction vote. Then they are going to make their opening statements. We'll bring in the jurors one at a time to question our final two, and then they will make their closing statements, and then the jurors will cast their votes for a winner. I see this in the comments, and this is I do want to bring this up. So if you are watching via YouTube, that's wonderful. You get the luxury of 1080p, which is a great thing. However, if you want to be able to comment freely tonight, your best bet is to go over watching Facebook's players are not in that group. Obviously, everyone else, like players and jurors and whoever watching on YouTube, that's great. So yeah, if you want to head over there to comment all you want, say anything you want about the whole night, that's probably your best bet. I'll give the Den Boy shout out. I always will. They're deep in my heart. I truly love them. And all the friends I did get to see this past weekend was a lot of fun. So hi to those of you out there watching. And they're all spam texting me, so that's wonderful. All right, let's get to the fun. Let's get to the goods, the part 3 of the final HOH. Actually, let me introduce and give props to it's only 2 of them here. Mitchell left, but Tay is here and Crystal's here, part of the prod team. Say hi to everyone. How are you guys doing?
So good. So excited. What a great final 3.
Yeah,
so excited. It's been an amazing season.
No drinking game tonight, Tay?
No, but just start drinking and don't stop.
Anything's a drinking game if you try hard enough.
True.
All right, I'm going to send you guys back, and we're going to get to part 3 of the final HOH. That is going to be, if you missed it moments ago. Dan is here. Let me give him a shout out. Hey, Dan.
I'm here for the finale. I'm back. All right, I'm going to leave now.
Okay. All right, if you didn't catch it a few moments ago, Elise beat Olivia in part 2, so it's going to be Elise versus Caro in part 3, which we're going to do now. Caro, I told Elise this, so I'll give you a second. If you don't know it, you need pen and paper. If you don't have that, there's a chance to go run and get it. And she gave me give me 1 second. So how's everyone sound off in the comments? I see a lot of players and jurors and friends. Do you need to do the StreamYard thing? Yes, you do. Go to StreamYard.com /Facebook. I'm not going to pull a banner up because that I'm just not. But yeah, go to StreamYard.com /Facebook to have your Facebook account authenticated so I can see who you are as you comment. Not that I need to see you very much because I'm not going to be on screen very much after we get through this front part of it. Are you approved? No, still not. You can be like Eric Taylor. Oh, Caro's back. All right, let's get on with it. Elise, Caro, welcome to part 3 of the final HOH. For this, you will be playing what we've done every single season, and spoiler alert, probably will keep doing. It is the jury question quiz. In a moment, I will ask you a question about a thing a juror said. So if I was a juror, the question might be, when asked who his favorite house guest was, Josh said Carl or Crystal, and then you would hold up A or B, or hold up to yourself, reveal it. Then I will reveal the correct answer. If you get it right, you get a point. There are 8 jurors, so there are 8 questions. If not, we will go to a tiebreaker, which I forgot to ask Carl for. So Carl, if you're watching, please grab me a tiebreaker just in case, because I knew there was one thing I forgot, and that was the thing. Or anyone on prod that wants to give me a tiebreaker, you can do that. But don't tie. Someone just win. Let's do this. Any questions? Nope. All right, let's get on with it.
I'm sorry, we just need A and B, or are we?
Yeah, that's it. Just need A and B.
Just need A and B.
Yeah. All right, are you two ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Question number 1. When asked who was robbed, Kadri said A, Kelly, B, Jacob. When asked who was robbed, Kadri said A, Kelly, or B, Jacob. All right, Caro, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's see them. You both go with A, Kelly, and you're both correct. Question number 2. When asked the time he had the most fun, Jacob said A, when we got Bridget out, or B, when I won a competition. When asked the time he had the most fun, Jacob said A, when we got Bridget out, or B, when I won a competition. Are we good? All right, let's see him. You both said A, and you are both correct again. Question number 3. When Anwar was asked his favorite moment of the game, he said A, using the power of veto on Veronica in round 1, or B, Louise using the power of veto on him. When Anwar was asked his favorite moment of the game, he said A, using the POV on Veronica in round 1, or B, Louise using the POV on him. All right, let's see him. Elise goes with B. Caro goes with A. The correct answer is B. Louise using the POV on him. Elise rather. Gosh, Elise goes up 3-2.
We will always be Louise.
I know. When asked his biggest regret in the game, Jeff said A, taking out Kelly on my HOH, or B, letting my emotions run my game. When asked his biggest regret in the game, Jeff said A, taking out Kelly on my HOH, or B, letting my emotions run my game. All right, let's see him. You both go with B. You're both correct. 4-3 in Elise's favor. Next question. When asked who her mortal enemy was, Veronica said A, Kadri, or B, the block. When asked who her mortal enemy was, Veronica said A, Kadri, or B, the block. Are we good? Give you a couple more seconds. All right, I need an answer in 3, 2, 1, reveal. All right, Elise says A, Kadri. Caro says B, the block. The correct answer is Kadri. Elise goes up 5-3. Next question. When asked her favorite competition, Louise said A, llama, or B, letter finder. When asked her favorite competition, Louise said A, llama, or B, letter finder. All right, let's see him. You both go with llama. You are both correct. It is 6-4 with 2 questions left. So, Elise, if you get this, you will win. When asked who the least trustworthy player in the game was, Kelly said A, Bridget, or B, Anwar. When asked who the least trustworthy player in the game was, Kelly said A, Bridget, or B, Anwar. You good? All right, let's see him. You both say Anwar. You are both correct. And with that, congratulations, Elise. You have won the final head of household, and you are going to the final 2. All right, here's what's going to happen. I am going to bring Olivia in. Hello, Olivia. Glad you're here. You are both, Olivia and Caro, going to have your opportunities to make your pitch. And then Elise will make their decision. Caro, why don't you kick us off?
First of all, congrats, Elise. That was amazing. And my pitch to you is that I would love to just bring our game for full circle. I know that we started off connected in the beginning, and I think, it would be great to just bring it to full circle, go against each other, and that is what I was wanting to do as well. So that's...
All right, Olivia.
So I think, Caro, I think you both have played phenomenal games. Congratulations, Elise, winning this final HOH. I really do think that you have a better chance against me than Caro. I think that Caro has a very, very, very strong possibility to win this game. I was afraid to go against Caro in the final 2. And Elise, I truly think by not taking me to the final 2, you're discrediting your own power and influence you had over the game, the safety you maintained, the power you had over votes to get to this point. You're saying that you don't think that I feel like if you don't take me, you're saying that all of that isn't strong enough to win this game over what you consider a potentially me winning based off of my personality or my perception. I think the things that you did concretely in the game are strong enough to be able to beat me. And I think that you and Caro both have been able to evade the block, not receive any votes against you. Whereas I am sure that there are people who would have evicted me in this game. At the Bridget round, I could have easily have gone, whereas you two have maintained this level of not being detected, of being able to be under the radar, of being able to be in such a strong position throughout, that you didn't ever get a lot of heat. And I think that that's something to be proud of. And I think that that's something you can hold over me. And I really do. So I really think that the right choice is to go against me and be confident in all of the strategic things that you did that got you here and that showed that you had more, like, a more stronghold and direction in the game than I did. So please, I'm really and you know, when, like, and we also formed a bond early in the game, you know, and like, and I really, you know, hope that you would take me. And if you have anything else, like, I'm free to answer, but I really, like, think that you should. So.
All right, Elise, the floor is yours.
I'm like really emotional right now. This is not an easy decision by any means. You both are incredible. You have both played amazing games, and I would be honored to sit next to either of you. And I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a battle to compete against either of you in the final two. And I've listened to you both, what you had to say to me, and I've really just been kind of sitting here and just trying to think through what is the best decision for me. And I came in tonight thinking I was going to do one thing, and I think I'm changing that. And this is something that that just sort of I started thinking about the last like 15, 20 minutes. So, Caro, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to give you.
It's okay. I respect your decision, Elise. I really do.
Caro, congratulations on an incredibly well played game. A really stellar gameplay. It was an honor having you this season. I'll give you any. Well, you're gonna have words later, but if you have anything you'd like to say before we send you off to the jury, who is on a Zoom right now, where you can hang out with them or take the time that you need. Also understandable.
Yeah, I'll take the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Caro, and we're gonna get you where you need to be. But goodbye for now.
Bye, Caro.
Olivia and Elise, congratulations. You are the final two. One of you two will be winning this game and this season. It is now time for the two of you to put your game faces on, get ready to face the jury. We should be able to get most of them in tonight. I know that there's some scheduling issues, but not with good. I'm going to double check with Prod. So Prod, please someone tell me, like, are we good with jurors? Are most of them there ready to go in terms of being on the Zoom? I see Max typing, or nope, he's just. I'm going to give you two a second. So I'm going to just stay back here and give you two a moment while I make sure that we are good to go with everything. I'm looking at our Facebook prod chat. By the way, prod people, if anyone can just let me know if we're good on jurors in the Zoom in terms of like the majority of them being here, if we're waiting on anybody. If not, then we can go ahead and get started. I will be, okay, I can do that. Otherwise, we're good, Dan, according to what you just said. All right, I think we're good. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to bring Elise and Olivia back on here in a moment. They're going to give their opening statements. You have up to 10 minutes, but I'm not like going to police it unless we start getting ridiculous, because we do have 9 jurors to get through. So say what you got to say in that time, and then we'll bring in the jurors one at a time. I think only one person I'm going to be reading a question stand-in for. Otherwise, we'll be good to go. And let's get you both back in here. Elise, since you won the HOH, you can decide if you'd like to go first right now or if you'd like to go first on the back end for the closing statements. You're muted. I know you're doing hands, which only give me so much.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God, wait. If I pick first in the closing, then I'm going last in the. I mean, oh my God, my brain is not working. I'm sorry.
Whatever you do now, you'll do the opposite later.
Okay, so if I go first here, I'll go last in the closing statement.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that what you want to do, or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then with that, I'm going to get off screen. I'll leave you two both here. And Elise, when you are done, just pass it over to Olivia. I don't need to do that, if that makes sense. All right. Good luck to the two of you.
Good luck, Olivia.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. I just want to start off. This is crazy. I'm like still kind of in shock. This is all happening so quickly. I want to say thank you so much to production for hosting and giving us all your time and effort this season. And I also want to thank everyone who played and made it the incredible experience and adventure that it has been. It's been incredibly stressful and anxiety inducing, but also so fun. And I've loved meeting every single one of you. And I'm excited to answer all of your questions tonight. So I want to start off by saying that I came into Big Brother Hometowns knowing that I was going to play a completely different game than I have ever played before in my previous 3 orgs. In my other 3 orgs, I had always sort of gotten pegged as a social threat pretty early on. Normally, I would start getting targeted the beginning of merge or the beginning of jury, and that would a lot of the times last me throughout the merge, that I would just be in this danger position. And so I knew coming into this that I had to change the strategy in order to navigate the end game, because I've just never been able to get past that before. So what exactly did I change in my game from previously? I made sure right off the bat to minimize my threat level from the very, very beginning. I spent much of the start game just, being friendly with people, getting to know you guys on a personal level, knowing in my heart and in my brain that if we had close and genuine conversations, which would then turn into close and genuine relationships, that would discourage people from wanting to put me up on the block. And you can see that was effective, as I was not put on the block until the very last possible chance, where Caro put me up. She told me that she didn't want me to be able to say, if I made it to the end, that I hadn't been on the block before. And that was her reasoning. But before that, obviously, I'd never been put on before. And I actively worked to create this careful balance at the beginning and throughout the game, between, getting on calls and forming these crucial bonds and relationships that are needed to go far in this game, and also making sure that I wasn't viewed as one of the most active and threatening and talked about people on the cast, because I knew being in that position was going to put me in danger far earlier than I ever wanted. Also, I purposely positioned myself in a place where I wasn't clearly with a certain group of people or really a specific alliance throughout the game. And this resulted in me getting more information told to me than I gave out. I made sure that to make it so that anyone and everyone felt that they could maybe work with me, use me as a vote, use me for a single plan, just in order to absorb as much information as I possibly could, to then make those informed decisions and actions so that I could benefit myself in the game. I also positioned myself very carefully so that people would always go after each other before me. Early on, I recognized that Jeff and Olivia shared distrust with each other. I knew it would be in my best interest to keep them both in the game together as long as I possibly could, because at one point they would try to take the shot at the other, leaving me safe. And you can see that in the final 4, when it was me, Jeff, and Olivia in danger. Olivia won the POV and took out Jeff over me. I also formed close bonds with people that were seen as the big threats throughout the game, and I did my best to make sure they remained in the game for as long as possible, not only to protect myself, but so that there would always be a bigger perceived threat sitting next to me as someone to take out. I knew I couldn't 100% bank on my comp ability. Luckily, here at the very end, it worked out for me, and a lot of my bad luck that I've had throughout the game, it vanished, which was wonderful. But I couldn't bank on my comp ability to get me to the end. I just knew I couldn't. So I kept people I knew would go home over me if I were in danger, and also people like Caudry and Jeff, who won 8 combined HOHs together, who would never have put me on the block as far as I'm aware, and I don't think that they would have targeted me until much later on in the game. And yeah, so I made it so that I not only had Caudry, Jeff, and Olivia, the like 3 perceived big threats, on my side and wanting to protect me and take me to the final 4, but also so that I was the person that, when it came to the final 6, Louise and Caro came to me, of all people, to try to make that flip on Jeff and Caudry. So I had the best of both worlds in this scenario. I had Louise and Caro wanting to work with me, and I also still had Olivia, Caudry, and Jeff on the other side. We were able to take Caudry out, and then I was still able to have that close bond with Olivia and Jeff. And when I recognized that someone was a threat to my position in the game, whether that be their relationship with my close allies or them actually wanting to put me on the block, I was able to mitigate that and deal with it really quickly and effectively. For example, with Jacob, who told me twice that he would put me up either as an initial nom or a renom at one point in the game. I made sure to win the HOH as soon as I possibly could after that on live night to get him out to protect myself, because I did not want any added attention drawn to me by me getting put on the block. I wanted to try to keep that under the radar status as much as I possibly could. I want to say that furthermore, at Final 7, I found out that Jeff had made a Final 4 deal with me, him, Caudry, and Olivia. I did not want that to happen. I never told that to anybody, but I did not want that to be my Final 4. I did not think that that was the best way for me to set myself up to get to the end of the game, to win the game. So I, again, very clearly and carefully made sure that I had other options that I could work with. So I wasn't just forced to go along with this Final 4 that Jeff wanted to have. And I was able to successfully do that, obviously. I also played a very flexible and resilient game. I lost 2 close allies, Michael and Bridget, really early on in the game, and both were people that I did not want to go home when they did. Those, I can say for certain, are the only 2 people that I did not want to go home in the placement that they went home. But I knew that in order to keep my positioning and perception in the game as someone flexible, someone that can kind of just go with the flow and isn't, tied to a specific side, I had to let them go. And I knew throughout the game when it was time for me to take action and go against the grain, and then when it was best for me to, just go with the flow and be able to navigate my way through those situations because of the close bonds that I had made with people. And I want to close this out by saying I know I didn't play the most flashy or in-your-face strategic and comp-pieced type of game. I've done that in the past, and it didn't work out for me. I never made it to the finale. So, I recognize that, you may be favoring a game like that, but I want you to know that I did this very specifically knowing that it was going to be my best chance to get to the end. This under the radar flexible gameplay was very deliberate, everything that I did. And my control of and influence in the game may not have looked like as many would view control, but I remained in a position of power, whether that be through the allies I'd made and were able to strategize with them, influence them in some way, or with the direct moments that I was given the sole opportunity to flip the game. And most importantly, again, I remained safe throughout the game. I was not put on the block at all until the very end. And I had set myself up at the Final 4 so that Jeff or Olivia would always go over me. I'm excited to hear all your questions, and that's pretty much it for me for now. I have more to say, but yeah, take it away, Olivia.
Thank you, Elise. Okay. See what time it is. 6:34. Okay. Hello, jury. Hello, viewers. Hello, prod. Hello, everyone. I am so blessed and honored to have been able to get to this point. I wasn't fully confident I would get here to the final 2, so I did not have a fully fleshed out speech planned. But one thing I am good is winging it. I am good at adapting. I received circumstances time and time again in this game that were not necessarily ideal for me, but throughout this game, I was always running if-then scenarios. If this, then what? You know, what's going to happen if someone that I'm not necessarily the closest with wins an HOH? I was never prepared in this game to let myself be vulnerable. And that is something that I have realized in my past games. I always try to be a very good, strong ally that tries to protect those who I am close with. I have found that that ends up biting me in the ass because people realize that I can get into a strong position and that I can hold power, and it ultimately comes back to bite me. Luckily for me in this season, the time that happened, Bridget was put on the block instead. I'm going to start at the beginning of the season because I believe I played a very strong game in the beginning of the season and set up relationships and set up conflict in a very specific and targeted way in order to ensure that I could survive through the entirety of this game, no matter what happened, no matter who won. Were there times in this game that I certainly could have gone? Absolutely, but I didn't. Luck factors into this game a lot. And also all of the jurors, everyone who played and participated in this game had a huge effect on my game. There is nothing I could have done solely by myself or solely by my own information. Everything that you all did heavily impacted how I played, how I adjusted, and how I decided to move forward in the game. Starting round 1, I felt very insecure about my game. I wasn't able to get on calls day 1, which I think is critical in an org. I've played enough games to know in an org what happens when you're inactive day 1, or what happens when people aren't talking to you for a vote. They're probably not voting your way. So round 1, I formed very strong connections with Caudry and with Jimbo, and then I had some pre-existing connections or people I knew of in the game. But I want to say that specifically that Caudry and Jimbo were people that I just felt a close personal connection with and really bonded starting off with in the game. Caudry was able to win the first HOH, with which I tried to help influence go in his direction. I talked to Elise about making sure I didn't want Stan to win the HOH. I didn't want Michael to win the HOH because I hadn't talked to either of them. I wanted it to be Caudry, Elise, or Luis. And so that's something I talked through with Elise. Caudry was able to become the HOH, which I felt safe with that scenario, even though others didn't. And he then nominated Claudia and Veronica, renom Stan. And something that maybe not a lot of you know is that I spent almost an hour and a half on the phone with Claudia after Stan was renommed, because I knew from the information I had received from other house guests that maybe Stan would stay because Robbie had formed this 6-person alliance that I wasn't included in. One thing I don't like in this game is not having power and not being able to influence where it lies. So I coached Claudia for an hour and a half of pitch ideas, things she could say to people, the exact votes she needed to target in order to be able to stay, and the timing of when to do it. She was able to stay, and Stan went unanimously. Going into the next round, I knew Robbie would be painting a target on my back, so I made sure to gun for the HOH and put him on the block with Michael, someone else I hadn't talked to a lot. Things were able to go my way. The veto wasn't used. Robbie was evicted, who was someone who was going to be very against me. And then moving into the next round, my close ally Jimbo was able to win the HOH, even because Caudry. Oh, also I formed the Pussy Willows Alliance after round 2 from my HOH. I was also involved in other alliances, which I will talk about, all of which were very important to me and helped me gather information and move forward in this game. But Jimbo won. I knew that he was going to nominate Jeff and Luis even before he nominated them. And I didn't necessarily stop him from doing that because in this game, I didn't want to pressure people to do things that weren't necessarily best for their game. I wanted them to feel like they had control and power in the relationship and that I wasn't overpowering. However, I did suggest the Michael renom to Jimbo. That was fully Jimbo's own decision, but I did give him positive reasons to do it because I knew Michael was close to Elise, Michael was close to Jeff, Michael was close to Luis, and I didn't think Michael was going to be a jury vote for me at that point in time, so I wanted him gone pre-jury. And so then Connor was able to win the veto. Michael was renominated. Michael out the door. Moving on to the next round, Jeff won HOH. I thought this was going to destroy my game. Jimbo and Claudia, two people I had been working on that I thought the house wasn't working on, were nominated for eviction. Claudia, bless her heart, was in a play, and I said, I'm sorry, Claudia, I will let you go. And Jimbo, please stay. And so Jimbo was able to stay, even though that was Jeff's primary target potentially. And I formed also strong relationships with Jacob from that first vote, strong relationships with Anwar through Bridget. And I was really paying attention to people that I felt like the rest of the house wasn't prioritizing or wasn't working on their relationships with. And so then after Claudia went, Bridget went on the block. I had talked with Kadri. I was always ready to cut Bridget because I prioritized Kadri and I knew Bridget was targeting Kadri. I was very aware of a lot of the conflicts in the house, but I also knew who I wanted to side with because I felt like Kadri would have more loyalty to me than Bridget would when her interests were spread all across the house. And so then, and I knew that Kadri wanted Bridget to go, and I knew the day before because Kelly told me all of you all were leaning to evict Bridget. I knew the entire day Bridget was going to be evicted, and I tried to get on calls with y'all, and a lot of people either said Bridget would be safe or just didn't get on call with me. And I pretended the whole time to think that I didn't know Bridget was going when I fully did, so I could use that as an opportunity to bond with Jeff, and so that Jeff would see me also as someone who was being left out of all this information, that we could grow our bond because I knew it was something that was weak. And I knew that if Jeff thought that I fit into his moral code and his little power player thing, which I also exposed to Jimbo and Kadri, tried to tell them of every pre-existing relationship I knew in the house so that they could target those people and not me because I was being upfront with them. Whew. And then, of course, Elise targeted Jacob and then the Alive night, but I was totally fine with that because at that point, I knew Jacob and Anwar were turning against me. And that is my fault for not prioritizing Anwar enough and making him feel insecure. And then also Veronica, I was someone that I didn't build a super strong relationship with in the house because I was trying to spread myself elsewhere and didn't want to be totally everywhere. Then Kelly was nominated. I was able to stay unanimously because Kelly had elevated herself at a threat level that was more significant than mine. People were able to save me, and I purposely pretended like I was so weak and powerless in this game so that people would lose that perception of me being a threat, me being a house target, and that would flee from their minds, and people would see me as someone who didn't have a lot of influence and power, so I could lower my threat level and continue to move through this game. And I had built good relationships with Luis, with Caro, with Elise, with Jeff early on the game that I was able to still, maintain some kind of working relationship with and make them feel that they could still work with me over these other players. I cast a critical vote to evict Anwar when it was a 3-2 vote during Kadri's HOH. Along with Elise, but I knew Anwar was saying what everybody wanted to hear and would ultimately be turning against me and Kadri. And I also didn't like to really mislead people with where I was voting for too long. I didn't like waiting till the end. I liked trying to be truthful with people and telling them where I stood. And whenever I said I was undecided in a moment, it's because I truly was. And I like to give people the opportunity to hear them out and feel like they're being heard. And so then moving forward, I knew that Jimbo was in severe danger on that live night at the final 7, but I knew no matter what, I was going to stay during that round. I would have liked to save Jimbo, could I have, and Kadri and I have. We could have also if we had won the veto, but we didn't. But that was a loss. I was prepared and able to take and still move forward in the game. Kadri then I knew was a bigger target than me because he had won all these comps. I threw so many comps just so that I wouldn't have a target on my back for having the win, having the influence. And then moving on, I was able to convince Elise to evict Luis over me at the final 5 when they almost used the veto and almost put me on the block. With the 10-minute conversation, I was able to change their opinion. And then I studied my ass off for this final 4 and final 3 competition so that I could beat Jeff by freaking 10,000 points in the final 4 veto and vote to evict him when he was someone who I was against all season, who I then convinced to let me into his little inner circle, make a final 4 deal with me, even though I would have evicted him the first chance I almost got. And I was able to get here, losing all parts of the final HOH comp. I'm here against Luis. against, oh my God, Elise. I always mix their names up, but I deserve to win this game. I have adapted. I have moved through this with all the strategy and all the information and relationships that I possibly could. And I deserve to be your winner of BBH 16. And I am so ready for all your questions. I fully acknowledge there are things that I don't know about the game potentially, and things where maybe you had a more active position in the round, but I actively chose to take step backs at moments. And I hope you all will hear me out as you go into the questioning. Thank you. And thank you, Elise. I'm done. Okay.
All right. Jurors, I forgot to tell you guys this before, but when you ask a question, just pick someone to answer so we don't do the who's going to go first dance. Otherwise, we're going to kick this thing off with Veronica, who is muted.
And I'm muted. I'm so sorry. Sorry, you're on my phone. So, the question that I wanted to ask both of you basically was, what was your most crucial move? Olivia, you can go first if you want to. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Olivia, who is muted.
Oops.
I'm dying.
Sorry. I didn't want to be, yeah. Okay. Let's see. I think I really do believe that a lot of the events that happened early game were most crucial for me in setting up relationships and conflicts moving forward. And so I would say that my most crucial move in the game I would say my most crucial move, honestly, might be helping Jimbo make the decision to renominate Michael. I do think that that's a decision that Jimbo came to on his own, but I do think that I spoke to him about that possibility, and I specifically wanted Michael out of the game because I knew that he was a potential number for people that I wanted to be closer to me, namely Elise, namely Jeff and Luis. I didn't want them having that number for themselves that I felt wasn't with me because of a potential jury vote, because of moving forward in the game. Like, votes become more and more critical as you move forward in the game. So Michael is someone who I wanted gone pre-jury, and also that was someone who I had nominated, who, if he had got power, could have targeted me. So I think that that was a very important early game move that then allowed me to kind of move up in the pecking orders of some others and be a more important number to them, whereas Michael could have been otherwise. So I'm going to go with that for my answer, as well as pretending that I didn't know Bridget was going to be evicted. Yeah, I'll say that.
All right. Okay. My most crucial move, same question? Veronica?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that, again, similarly to what Olivia said, I made a lot of crucial moves early on in the game to set myself up in a position where I wasn't going to get targeted, where I had these relationships that I could rely on, that just people that weren't, I wasn't going to be in danger. I just wasn't going to be in danger because people were not going to put me up on the block. And similarly, again, to Olivia, setting up these conflicts that I knew people were going to go after certain other people and making sure that they could kind of stay in as long as possible, as long as they weren't too big of a threat to my game. But I do think just a singular move that probably set me up the best and to get me to where I am here is when Jeff came to me saying that he was starting to worry about Kelly and was thinking that it was the time that she needed to be evicted. And I do believe that if in that moment I said to Jeff, no, now is not the time, this is why, he would have listened to me, and we would have waited for it. But I encouraged him to make that move, to renom Kelly and to get her out, because I knew in my head, Jeff had told me that he kept going back and forth between wanting a final two with me and a final two with Kelly. So in my mind, Kelly had to go in order for that relationship between me and Jeff to blossom to its full potential and for me to be his number one alone. Kelly was a barrier for my relationship with Jeff, and she did have to go there. And I also felt like Kelly was a huge threat. She was playing a very similar game to me, and I think that is probably one of the most crucial moves that I made in the game.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I guess whoever was next will be next now.
All right.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica. Next is actually me subbing in for Jacob, who is somewhere. Here is the question from Jacob, and this one I'll let Elise go first, and then Olivia can follow, and then someone should be coming on deck. So here is the question. He said, I think we all noticed that prior relationships played a big role in how this game developed, something I was disappointed with considering I'm one of the few that no one knew. What were your prior relationships before entering the house? Was it something you planned on? Was it coincidental? And how do you think they helped or hurt your game? That is the question. Elise, go.
Okay. So the people that I knew before the game were Bridget, Olivia, Kelly, and Jeff. I only actually knew Bridget. She's the only person that I've had extensive conversations with. We both are in the Havoc server and in the same community, and we are playing D&D together. We're very much friends. That is a friend relationship. When it came to Olivia, Jeff, and Kelly, I knew of them all. Never really had spoken to them, I don't think ever, but just had seen them play games and kind of knew that they ran in similar circles to people that I knew or had played orgs with, but I had never actually spoken to them before. Sorry, Josh, can you repeat part of the second question?
Yeah, I'd love to. He said, was this something you planned on? Was it coincidental? How do you think these relationships helped hurt your game?
Great. So it was not planned. I did not know that any one of these people were playing the game. I came in, I actually applied to All Out, which Bridget's on prod for, and she kept it so secret that she had also applied to BBH. She did such a good job. I was shocked when I saw that she was on the cast. And of course, I came into the game. I saw these people. Jeff came to me immediately, and he brought up how he really wanted to work with me. We had both played the last season of Paranoia, but never got to work with each other. And I would, in my mind, be stupid to not take advantage of that situation. Never in my mind was I going to rely on prior relationships or people that I knew of before the game. I was never going to let that influence who I wanted to work with, my decisions going forward, any of that. And I made a confessional even after I talked to Jeff saying, I don't really know if I want to make a commitment to work with Liv and Jeff and Kelly and Bridget in such an intense way so early, because I wanted to leave myself open to meet everyone else in the game and see if, I had a closer connection with them and if our game styles kind of matched up more. It's not like I actually really knew Liv, Kelly, and Jeff. So how was I supposed to know if we were going to really be able to work together? But of course, I do think, and unfortunately, this is the case sometimes with game casting, that it did work to my favor, and I'm sure Liv will maybe say the same. It is something that can help and hurt you. People knowing who you are and have seen you play games, maybe your reputation or how you've played could hurt you in a way. And maybe potentially, I don't know, if Bridget had stayed longer, if Kelly had stayed a little bit longer, maybe it would have come for me because they knew how I played previous games. But it did help, specifically, I think, with Jeff, knowing hey, we missed out on this chance to play Paranoia together. This is going to be so fun and exciting that we get to play this game together now. And we did end up working together and made it all the way to the Final Four together. So yeah, I think that is my answer to that question.
Okay. So, going into this game, as soon as I saw the cast, I saw that there's some people I knew of or some people who I had directly spoken to and talked before and had some kind of relationship. For me, those people were Bridget and Kelly, who I had actually extensively talked to before. I knew of Elise, I knew of practically every orger that's in this community. I knew of Elise, I knew of Caro, I knew of Jeff, I knew of Luis, but and I even knew of Anwar, but those aren't relationships I really had other than Bridget and Kelly was, a relationship that I had before the game. I actually felt like that was a huge hindrance to me in the beginning of the game, and that's not how I wanted to play the game. I didn't want to play it with prior connections, and I also felt like Kelly and Bridget were a little more connected with these other people than I was, and that personally made me insecure. And I formed like a really strong and good bond with like both Kadri and Jimbo, who I had never met before, never heard any information of before, and I just vibed with them and I really wanted to work with them. And early on, a lot of people were like kind of targeting them or like throwing all this shade on Kadri. That's what Bridget was doing. And I didn't like that at all. And so I said, there is no way I am letting like this whole group of, and as I'm sure we all know, this group of proclaimed power players, people that were associated because they were, had played orgs and like this org community before, these long form like orgs. I didn't want them to dominate towards the end of the game, especially when I had strong bonds with other people and I had a good bond with Jacob as well after we were talking. And so all of those people I tried to alert them of the prior relationships that existed in the game because I didn't want that to be a hindrance for them. I didn't want them to be misled. Even Claudia, I told her, she was like, oh, these people were telling me they were unsure or they were maybe going to keep me. It's like, Claudia, girl, they're lying to you. So because I really didn't want that to be a hindrance for those people. And also I even felt like my association with Bridget prevented other people who knew of me from asking me to be in an alliance without Bridget or maybe without Kelly, because they would have thought that that information would get back to them. So on my second, and I didn't want to spread myself overly too thin. I was in a lot of groups with Bridget and Kelly. And I tried to work on those relationships with those people I didn't know as well that were in those groups, but also Kadri and Jimbo were huge priorities to me. So as soon as I won that second round HOH is when I said, I asked Kadri, I was like, Kadri, who is trying to work with you where you feel a reciprocal relationship to where they'll protect you? Because I knew so much heat was on Kadri, and Kadri is someone I could have seen like working well into this game with. And he told me Kelly and Jimbo, and I said, perfect, because I really like Jimbo and I did have an existing relationship with Kelly, but had Kadri not suggested Kelly, I wouldn't have even necessarily included Kelly in that group, but that worked out for me. So then I formed the Pussy Willows Alliance, which was the four of us, which I tried to keep as low key as possible for as long as possible, because I really wanted to protect the both of them. And I knew that Jimbo had then formed a lot of relationships with people who weren't as experienced in these wars, like with Jacob and Veronica and Anwar, who haven't maybe played as many or weren't as well connected. And I did want to take Jimbo away from all that and have him prioritize me, but and then Jacob as well. And eventually like that group kind of turned because I ended up not necessarily like, I was playing the middle for a lot of the early game, and I didn't necessarily side with like, we need to take out all these orgers, because I knew if I got exposed for all the dirt that I was pushing and sending to the other side, that I would become a huge target, which I became. But I was able to evade that and get those players out early enough that it didn't come back to bite me. And so that's how my pre-existing relationships went for me in this game. And I think I actively worked against them, but used them when they benefited me. And was able to rebound from losing those allies, and was still able to move forward with all these people that I didn't know as strongly before, and that I tried to prioritize and make them feel like I was close with them. And I was always willing to cut my pre-existing connections to further my own progression in this game, however I saw it benefiting me individually.
Can I add something just really quickly? I did actually also know of Veronica before. I forgot to mention that. I do think the prior relationships, or knowing people before the game or knowing of them, it's a great starting point. Maybe like a conversation, like, oh my God, hey, like we know each other. But similarly to what Olivia is saying, I did not let it dictate my game at all. I wanted to meet people who I felt connected to, and I wasn't going to let the prior relationships affect that at all or change who I was going to work with. Again, you have to use them to benefit yourself when you can, but it's not something that I in any way let take control of my game.
All right, let's get to our next juror, which is the lovely Kelly.
Hey guys. Okay. I was gonna not take a lot of time, but now I think I'm going to, just because of how this has gone so far. I'm gonna be super fucking real, as I usually. Oh my god, I'm sorry if you can hear them yelling.
Guys, stop it. Stop it. We have business to get to. Would you knock it off?
So, I'm gonna be. Both of you guys were talked down on by the jury because people thought that not both of you would make the final two. And I was very vocal about each of y'all's games, and I just want to give you both an opportunity to talk more about it. So I'm going to go to Olivia first. Olivia, can you give me just like 3 succinct sentences that sort of sum up the biggest things about your gameplay? Because I think some people get caught up in how passionate you are and like lose your direct intent. So 3 succinct sentences as to what the biggest things you did and like why they were significant.
Okay. I think the 2 things I can think of right now are, and I'll try to get to 3, but one big thing that I did was to create conflict, to spread information that pit people against each other and created targets that were not me, to create targets that weren't necessarily my allies. As much as I could, I tried to create conflict between, we had the whole Stan and Robbie situation, conflict between Bridget and Kadri, which I continued to spur between the 2 of them. I knew one of them had to go, and I had more faith that Kadri would win a comp than Bridget. and I tried to spur conflict. Jimbo and Elise weren't necessarily working together either. And I was able to keep my allies kind of on separate sides of the aisle. So creating conflict. Number 2, making sure that if I was put on the block, which is always a real possibility, that I would survive over my allies. I specifically and intentionally made sure in every round that if I was to be put up and if it was going to be next to my ally, that I would be able to get more votes than they would so that I would stay. In ways of that downplayed my game, in ways that elevated theirs. I would throw them under the bus if I had to. You know, I would say things to make it so that I would stay. In every scenario, like maybe I wanted my allies to stay or I didn't want them to go, but if them going, I could turn into helping my game, to lowering my threat level, to elevating myself in other people's relationships and taking myself off their target radar. It was something that I would do. And again, so by setting those targets up before me, and then maybe the third thing, by not winning comps, even when I could, there were a lot of competitions that I did throw because I didn't want to show my hand necessarily. And I know that in some ways that can be perceived as like, you know, not being strong and like, I want to assert myself like this and I want to make this decision. But the moments in which I did that were moments where I really felt like it benefited my game to not take the power for myself, to let other people do it so that they created more target and more conflict around themselves. And now they had a target, you know, that they had just gone against that would potentially go against them. So those 3 things, which were number 1, creating the conflict. Number 2, making sure I would stay on the block against my allies if my allies did not win power. And number 3, by whatever it was that I just said, which was to make sure that, to not win power, to not say like, oh, Olivia has won these many comps, like Olivia has done this, Olivia has done that. Instead, I was like, Kadri can win the comps. That's okay because he's targeting targets that are similar enough to mine that he can get the heat. So by not winning competitions when I didn't need to do it and I didn't need to show my hand.
Awesome. Thank you. Olivia, I'm only saying this to you because you know how much I like care about you. 3 succinct sentences that wasn't that, and I think that like less can be more for you as this progresses.
Thank you. Sorry that they weren't succinct.
No, that's okay. I'm actively like trying, like I think that less can be more for you because your game speaks for itself. That's my opinion. Elise, I think the jury's big at high. But also, I love both of you guys, and I'm thrilled to vote for either of you. Like, please know that. Oh my God, this is amazing. Elise, I would love to hear about your end game. I think that's what the jury is least clear about right now, specifically. And because nobody's asked this yet, I would love to hear why you picked Olivia over Caro, because that was something that we talked a lot about.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yes. I would love to share. So my end game, I set it up the way that I did, having Louise, Caro, Olivia, Jeff, because first of all, I wanted to keep Jeff in the game for as long as possible. We did have a final 2 together, and as much as it pained me, I think I would have had to evict him if I won the power of veto, because I just don't think that there would have been a chance, or it would have been a very low chance for me to beat him at the end, because he just played such an incredible game. But I knew the longer that I keep Jeff in the game, he is always going to get evicted before me.
And we talked about that. Yeah.
Yes, he's always going to get evicted before me. Olivia, always going to get evicted before me. Louise, probably also always going to get evicted before me. So then it just came down to me and Caro. And both of us, the reason I evicted Caro over Olivia, we'll just get right to that. This was a very hard decision. It was not something that I took lightly. Similarly, I did not take the decision to get rid of, or not get rid of, that's so violent sounding, but to to evict Louise versus Olivia in that same situation. As Olivia does say, I want to counter what she said. She convinced me to not use the veto and to keep her. That did not happen. She did talk to me, but even before I won the veto, I, in my brain, in my heart, wanted to evict Louise. I felt that she had a better story. I felt like she had more close relationships on the jury. And I also knew that she was incredibly close to Caro. And I wanted Caro to take me to the final 2, not Louise. So I tried to bring people, Olivia, Jeff, Caro, that I, in my brain, thought they would each take me to the final 2. I thought, yes, maybe it would be hard to beat some of them, but that was my best way to get to the final 2, was to keep all 3 of those people in. Olivia versus Caro. Olivia maybe played a little bit more of like a threat level game. And so I was definitely, worried about that. The jury was going to favor that. But when it came to Caro, I felt that she played just too much of a similar game to myself. When I looked at each of the evictions, when I thought through my brain, like, what has happened in this season? What have I done? What are my points that I'm going to make in my speech? Can Caro say similar things? I felt like she just would have too many similar points. It was going to be too hard to differentiate my game from her. And I also really believed, like, she just really didn't make that many people upset on the jury. She had close relationships with everybody, and she played an incredible game. Not that Olivia didn't as well. Like, you both played so well. But Caro's game was just too similar to mine in the end for me to sit next to her, because my game wouldn't be able to stand out in the way that it is next to Olivia. So that's sort of my whole end game plan. I set myself up so that I was never going to go home. Going into the final 4, I knew that I was going to make the final 3, because Jeff and Olivia were going to take each other out once Caro won HOH. Like, I know this sounds cocky, but like, I wasn't afraid that I was going to get evicted. And that is a huge power position to be in. And I set that all up. Like, it wasn't a fluke for that to happen. And I'm here where I am. And I think even if I didn't win the part 2 and part 3, I would maybe still be here, because I was able to bring the people that wanted to take me to the end. So that is my answer to your question, Kelly.
Awesome answers, like, from both of you guys. My one thing that I'm going to say to Elise, like, similar to what I said to Olivia, you have a tendency, and you did it in this answer, to, like, sort of apologize for the things that you say or the moves you make. don't. Like, you fucking slayed, own it. Like, both of you, like, don't apologize because it was awesome. And that's that. Like, I legitimately didn't know that you actively campaigned against me until Jeff left. And that's impressive as fuck that nobody told me. So, like, own it, don't apologize, be ruthless. Like, that's this game. But both of you guys, genuinely, like, I am so thrilled for both of you. I love both of you so much. You guys know that. And yeah, okay, I'm done. Bye.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Bye to you. All right, next up, it is the Hurricane Wheezy Anwar himself.
Is that me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm at a little bon voyage at Dave & Buster's for one of my employees. So sorry that I'm kind of in and out. But first, before I ask my question, I want to piggyback off of what Kelly just said. I don't know if you guys, a lot of people haven't watched Big Brother, so I hope you two have. Vanessa from Big Brother never really like owned their moves. Own your guys' moves. Don't be apologizing and be like, oh, well, I kind of did this and that. No. Be like, I fucking did this. I slayed this and I fucking took names here. Okay. Now, my first question goes to Olivia. All right. My question to you is, it's my first time in jury, so I'm gonna be a little bit like, specific with my question. How did you, Olivia, earn Anwar's vote tonight?
Okay. I think that I can and I should earn Anwar's vote tonight because so Anwar, I know like at the beginning of the game, at first we really wanted to work together and things slacked off. Admittedly, that's, very much in part my fault. And that's something I necessarily shouldn't have done. And I think I did that because I felt like I was getting spread a little bit too thin. And I felt like there were some people that might, you might target that I didn't want to go, or people that might target you that I wanted them to stay maybe longer than you did. And so I am sorry for that. I think that I should be earning your vote because during the stages of the game where we did have that conflict with Bridget, I really, was trying to have honest conversations with you about how we could resolve it. There are a lot of things that you said that I did believe in the moment. And if you had won those competitions, I think that the direction of our game could have gone differently. And I really, and if I won, I wasn't even sure if I would target you but over the course of time, over the course of those rounds where neither of us were able to commit to doing one of those two things, I just was hearing information from other people that made me believe that you were a very, very convincing player, very, very good at getting your agenda across, very, very good at staying in the game, at targeting other players and really revealing the truths of the game and laying it out to dry and making that stuff transparent. And that was something that was dangerous to my game that I recognized in you. And so when it came to that point where you were up on the block against Luis, I said, I think Anwar is a huge threat to win this game. I think that he has got the support of people who I want to be supporting me over Anwar. And right now, Anwar has that support and I want it. And I don't want it to go to Anwar. So I recognize that threat in you, which I truly acknowledge as such a real thing. And I said, if Anwar is maybe going to prioritize those people, I need to take this opportunity to take Anwar out and strengthen my position moving forward in the game, as opposed to those other people that Anwar could potentially be working with. And I always tried to be transparent with you about how I was feeling. And when we were having those conversations, they were very real to me. And also, I did not want to leave you hanging for the entire duration of the time you were on the block. As soon as I had actually made the decision for myself, I talked to Luis and I talked to her and I said, okay, I think I want to vote to save you, because I wasn't going to make a decision until I talked to both nominees. Then I went to you and I said, Anwar, I'm really leaning towards evicting you. And then we had that conversation. And I let it there because I wanted you then to have the opportunity to work on other people's votes. And what I think Elise did, and I think Elise did multiple times throughout the game, was leave people hanging on where they really stood and didn't want to fully necessarily reveal their hand, which is something that I wasn't afraid to do when it came time to make those decisions. And so Then I know that you were trying to get Elise's vote, where I had already staked mine in the ground. And ultimately, I knew that Elise was still going to vote with me and Jeff there. And I think that I was trying to serve you that respect as a threat, and that's why I wanted to take you out, and that's why I think I deserve your vote.
Okay, I think you gave a very thorough answer. I will just kind of say my opinion on a little discrepancy. I think you saying that you wanted to be transparent and kind of pick up the pieces during the Bridget vote is kind of a discrepancy from earlier what you said that you knew Bridget was going the whole time. But when you're talking to me, you act like you didn't know Bridget was going the whole time. So I think that's a little bit of like
that's not what I meant. I meant in terms of like our relationship moving forward, that I was trying to be transparent on how I wanted to evaluate that. But yeah, I was deceitful about knowing Bridget was going, but that's not what I'm talking about. The relationship that we would have moving forward, not necessarily everything I knew about that round.
Okay. Elise, my question for you is, during the duration of the game, a few times conversation with other people, it came up that maybe you necessarily didn't have a backbone. When was the one time during this game that you can say that you displayed having a big backbone, that you did what you wanted to do and not what people in power wanted you to do, or make people upset, as you would say?
Okay. Yeah. Well, first off, the Jacob vote out. I knew Jacob had to go. Jacob had told me 2 times he wanted to either put me up as an initial nom or a renom. I knew he was close to Caudry. I knew he was close to Caro. And I wanted both of those people to be closer to me. And so removing Jacob from that equation meant, again, similar to the Jeff and Kelly situation, that they would then come to me before they went to Jacob to give me information and want to take me further and work with me. So that was a combination of me knowing that it was time to take out Jacob. I knew that Caudry and Caro did not want Jacob to go. And in some way, me, doing this was going against what they wanted, especially Caudry, because Caudry had expressed to me that, Jacob, not that he was necessarily working with Jacob, which I know that he was, but that they were close and that he didn't feel threatened by him. And I had been working with Caudry, and I knew that he wasn't going to be particularly pleased. And this is someone, who won 4 HOHs. He kept winning all the comps. And of course, pissing someone like that off could bite you in the ass. But I knew that I had to get rid of Jacob in that moment, because he said to me, I want to work with you. Like, I can see a future for us maybe working together. But I knew in my heart that I could not believe it, because he already had these relationships that he had formed with other people, and I was never going to be his priority. So he was someone that he had to go, and I fought for that power. I made it again against you and Jacob that I got that HOH. I convinced you guys to stop bidding so that I could get that HOH. And then I did what I wanted to do despite what anybody else told me. I was going to do what I wanted to do. So that is the biggest situation where I had a backbone, I think, in this game.
Thank you, Elise. Don't have any critiques for that. Quick question. Where do I live?
Arkansas.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Anwar. Next up is our good pal, Jimbo.
Oh, you're muted too. Okay.
Hey guys, what's going on? Congratulations. I just want to say that I've enjoyed getting to know both of you on a personal level, and that on a strategic level in the game, I think one of you let me in a lot more than the other, and I got to know one of you a lot more than the other on a personal level. So I played emotionally, and I'm going to vote emotionally, so my vote is already set. But I do want to give you guys both the opportunity to talk about the charities that you're playing for, because I'm very curious about that. So start with Elise.
So I am playing for the Trevor Project, which, if you guys don't know, is an organization that focuses mainly on suicide prevention for young LGBTQ plus people. They also do more than that, but that is their main goal. I chose this charity. It's a charity that I've been familiar with pretty much since I think I was like 11, 12, before I had come out and been accepting of myself. And it's a charity that hits home for me. Of course, I am queer myself, queer non-binary. To think about giving money to an organization that is helping people like me who struggle intensely, most like just the whole coming out process, the whole accepting process, everything, to give back to an organization that is helping support those people and help them move forward with their lives and to accept themselves for who they are, I think is a really beautiful thing. And it's, to get to that point, it's such a hard transition. And yeah, so that's what my charity is.
Oh, thanks. The charity I'm playing for is Youth Emerging Stronger, and they're a nonprofit that's based in LA that helps homeless and foster youth find housing and find programming to help them get out of the position of homelessness. I went to USC, so I lived in South LA and was surrounded by a community that was largely being gentrified by the college I was going to. And that took away a lot of affordable housing options. And as someone who has grown up low income themselves and lived paycheck to paycheck, but I lived in a very, a different area where at least I was able to not, face the threat of homelessness. I understand what it's like to struggle with finances and to not be equipped with the proper, the same resources that other people have that are financially advantaged. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're disadvantaged just by, the family or the body that they're born into. So I chose that charity that can help youth kind of get out of that situation and provide them with programming and resources to help provide them with their basic life necessities and set them up for success as adults to move forward. So in an area where a lot of families really struggle to get those resources. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your thorough responses from both those questions. And again, congratulations to the both of you. Well earned. And good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Thank you very much, Jimbo. Next up, there he is. One of my favorites from this season. I have favorites. Sorry. It's Kadri.
Am I muted? No, y'all heard that, right? I was his favorite. We all heard this. Okay, so this is going to be really simple. Okay? You get my vote if you'll take a shot with me right now.
I don't have
alcohol. I'm kidding.
Okay. I would have done it.
I'm kidding. Hold on. Let me pull up my question. I do want to remind you, just be simple. I cannot stand a rambler. I will cut you off and go to the next person. Just not into it. But Elise, tell me why the person next to you, Olivia, should not win this season of BBH.
Okay. Olivia should not win this season of BBH because she was not in as good of a position as I was. First of all, she was in danger at many points throughout the season. She wasn't receiving information from everybody in the game. And, she had to get dragged to the end. She didn't win any of the last few competitions. Not dragged, sorry. That was a little bit harsh. I don't mean that. Sometimes pressure gets to you. But she didn't win any of the competitions at the end, which a lot of people thought she would. I was told by someone that sitting next to Olivia, Jeff, or Kadri was a losing game. And that was something that stuck with me and made me feel very, very terrible about myself for most of the end game. And, I let that kind of seep into my brain that, if I do sit next to Olivia, I'm going to lose. It's over. I know she's going to win. But I started then comparing our games, and yes, she's played an incredible game, but she didn't have the hold that I had on the game. She didn't have the safety and the cushion that I had throughout the game, never being targeted. And I think that is the biggest thing that I have over her. She could have gone home. I never really was going to go home, ever. She didn't really set herself up for the end game. I did. And I'm here, and yet she is here as well. But that wasn't a certain thing that was going to happen. I know you don't want me to ramble, so I will end there, Kadri.
I appreciate that. Olivia, in your pitch to Elise to take you to the final two, you gave a few reasons on why they should pick you over Caro to take to the final two. Just being in the jury, like, not even gonna lie, like, I was leaning one way, and then you started saying those things, and I was like, holy shit, let me rethink this. So why should I vote for you? You gave me reasons on why I should pick Elise over you, but like, why should I vote for you?
Okay, so the reason you should vote for me, and I knew, so yeah, today what I've had to do a lot of is pitch against myself in order to be brought here to the end. I had to show Elise and Caro why their games were better than mine. And there were things that I said when I pitched to Elise in those final moments of why they should take me. And I said, because you're discrediting your own, powerful position you had in the game. However, like, as much as Elise might say that I was dragged to the end, this wasn't maybe my ideal scenario, but it was a scenario I knew would work for me. I maybe wasn't in the same position of protection and like not being targeted that Elise was. And I knew I would have a little bit of a more uphill battle, but I did get protection. Jeff didn't put me on the block at the final 5. Elise didn't use the veto to put me on the block at the final 5. And I mean, it wouldn't have mattered at the final 4, but I was like, hey, Caro, leave me off it, please. and then also at the final 6 round, I still knew I would be fine because I had talked with Caro and I had talked with Elise, and they were already leaning to vote you, Kadri. So I said, okay, if Jeff wins and I go up, I'll still be all right. And even still, I can pitch against this Jeff and Elise case. Every case that I was dealt with, even though it wasn't ideal, I was able to make the best out of it. And even though Elise may have had things like go their way so that they can say, oh, I was in this powerful position, I dealt with adversity and I dealt with challenges and I overcame them through my strategic prowess and the social relationships I had built, and to where I could give them reasons why they should keep me, why they shouldn't put me on the block, and why they should bring me to the final 2. And I think that my ability to persuade and to overcome obstacles deserves your vote.
Okay. Elise, besides Jacob, what other 2 moves in the game had you doing the happy dance when you were done with BBH for the night?
Well, I love that happy dance. Definitely, again, the Kelly move. She, I knew, was close to Jeff. She was also very close to you. That was something that you were very open with me about. And she was someone that was an obstacle for me to get closer to Jeff and to you. And I knew that once she was gone, I was going to be in a better position. And I was. So definitely her going and Jeff feeling like she needed to go and making that move, that made me so happy, because I knew moving forward that I was now higher up on the totem pole for you and Jeff. And Kelly was also a huge threat in this game, was playing pretty similarly to me in terms of like low key, sort of under the radar kind of game. I feel like she was, I think, more of a perceived threat than I was, especially towards the end, which is what ended up with like her getting up on the block. But a lot of her early game was pretty similar to mine. So that was definitely one of the moves that had me doing the happy dance. The other one, I mean, this isn't so much a move versus, me winning comps. I, again, has been very down on myself and my game. And I don't know if I've expressed this to you, Kadri. I think I might have. But I, even today, was like, I think I can win this game, but I'm very hard on myself. I have a lot of self-loathing and self-hate, and it's hard to get past that, and the anxiety and everything. And it's too I was worried that the jury was going to view me as someone, again, like Anwar said, that didn't have a backbone. That just kind of like, meh, whatever, like let things happen. And that Olivia was going to be, you know, this powerful figure that had control and influence and everything. And that I was just going to be seen as this like lower figure. But I don't think that that was true. That is true at all. I did have a backbone when I felt it was necessary to have one. Not, I think having a backbone is kind of an extreme, I guess, wording of the situation. I knew when I needed to be flexible. I knew when I needed to just kind of go with the flow and be like, you know what, like, that's fine. Because then it was going to be put me in a better position because people weren't going to be like, oh, Elise is like 100% with those people and not with me.
Yeah.
I managed to keep my middle sort of swing position throughout most of the game. And that is a huge, powerful position. And yes, I made decisions that maybe people thought weren't the right ones by keeping Olivia both at over Louise and then taking her to the final two. But again, I already defended myself for why I did that. I felt confident that Olivia would take me to the final two over Caro. And I also thought that if I kept Louise, Louise was going to take Caro, Caro was going to take Louise. And again, I wanted to sit next to someone who that has played an incredible game, but someone that I could differentiate myself from, and someone who we wouldn't like interlock our points about how we played a good game, because then I would just be again lost in sort of the sea of like, oh well, like you just kind of played a boring game, which
So you feel the middle ground, playing the middle ground, the middle of the road, being that swing vote, and the Kelly move were two of your biggest moves in the game besides the Jacob move.
I think yes, and I also I wanted to I also
No,
wanted to
you're fine.
add that I got into the mindset these like last 2 days. I wanted to be the one that got myself to the end. I was worried, you know, I did say this about you, Olivia. I don't mean it that you weren't dragged to the end. Didn't mean that. That was like a slip up. I was worried people were going to view me as being dragged to the end by someone like Caro or Olivia or even Jeff if he had stayed in the game. And I did not want that perception to be, you know, held by the jury, because I also, first of all, do not think that's true. I was not dragged here by any means. I could have changed certain things in the game, changed the trajectories of the game that, you know, would have resulted in a very different end game. And I had that power. And for me to win the part 2 and part 3 HOH and put myself here at the finale, not only proved to myself that I was capable and that I wasn't going to get dragged to the end, but hopefully to all of you guys that I not only positioned myself so that I would be safe throughout the game, made these strong connections with people, everyone, almost everyone, to the point where I could work and navigate my way through different groups, figuring out what was best for me in that moment, in that round. But that I could get to this point after and beat someone like Olivia, who was seen as this huge comp threat, like, oh, we gotta keep her in because she's gonna beat Jeff at trivia, beat her in part 2, and then beat Caro in part 3, and put myself here. So I think I very much do have a backbone, and I am proud of my game, and I hope that you guys see it throughout how I'm talking, and I am going to try my very best to own my game and not apologize, because I'm not sorry for the things that I did, because it got me here. And that's how I feel. You know, I love you all as people, but I had to do what I had to do. You had to go and you had to go to get me to this point. And I am incredibly proud of myself. When no matter what happens tonight, I'm going to be proud of myself. Of course, I really want you guys to vote for me to win. But yeah, winning, I broke out into tears when I won part 3 of the HOH, because I didn't get dragged to the end, you guys. I did not.
As you should have. Okay, my last question, Olivia. I wasn't going to ask this question, but just hearing some things that you said throughout the night, I feel like I have to ask this question.
Okay.
Why did you fail to mention Kelly in your meaningful relationships that you made throughout the game? You mentioned myself, you mentioned Jimbo, but you did not mention Kelly. this also came up again when you pointed out the fact that you were not wanting to work with pre-existing relationships. But I know for a fact that you worked with Kelly from almost the beginning of the game. So why were those why are those discrepancies there? Like, why was that failed to mention? Like,
Yeah, I didn't mean to not highlight that as much because Kelly's relationship with me was very critical, but Kelly was also someone, the reason I didn't mention it is because Kelly was always someone who I would have been able to cut. I saw Kelly as a threat in the game, and I saw the relationships that she had specifically with players like with Jeff and Elise and with Caro that were threatening to me, to where I could see my end game very much deviating from Kelly's. Kelly was a very critical relationship to me because she did give me a lot of information, and she is someone I worked very closely with and like figuring things out and getting information from her and discussing, moves and options in the relationships in the game. That was all very important. But the reason I didn't necessarily highlight Kelly as much is because Kelly is someone who I was willing to cut in the end, to where despite us having a really strong relationship, I was always willing to cut Kelly, and that was a relationship that was pre-existing that I didn't have to work on as much, to be honest, and that is true. And so that's why I funneled my energy into other relationships a little bit more, because I wanted to be sure that those people would save me if I ended up on the block against Kelly, and that I really did prioritize those other strong relationships. And every relationship I made in the game is important to me in different ways, and I haven't been able to totally touch on all of them necessarily with the questioning, but that's the reason that I haven't. And Kelly was gone very early on, and this end, in the jury phase, at ninth place. So from there, I really had to pivot as to what relationships I needed to work on to make sure that I would still have their vote, because early on in the game, I did feel like Kelly would be a vote to save me if I ended up on the block. But then when she was getting heat and she got in danger and then went, I was like, okay, now it's these other relationships that I need to, that I have been building up, that I need to save me here, and not Kelly. And so that's kind of why, is that my game just furthered with the rest of you all, more than it did with Kelly, towards this end game. Yeah.
Okay. That's it for me. Congratulations, you guys. Beautiful game from both of you.
Bye, Kadri.
Thank you very much, Kadri. All right. We thought that we had the first Hurricane Wheezy here, but now the real Hurricane Wheezy, it's Louise.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I know I have a reputation of having shit internet. If at any point I'm gone, just give me a thing and I'll do something. So I have a question for you each, and then a general question for you both to answer. I want to say that when Kelly was talking about, a lot of people were very critical of you, but I do want to admit that I was 100% one of them. And it wasn't because I don't respect you. It's because I always look for the mistakes. Because I think the mistakes that you make are very important, because I want to see how you recover from them. How do you fix those mistakes? And I think neither of you played perfect games, but I think you always really recovered really well from your mistakes. So with that, I'm going to go to what I think it was your biggest mistake with me, and why maybe you don't get my vote. And I want to see how you address that. How can you recover from that right now? So I'm going to go to you first, Elise. I kind of felt that at the final 6, when I won HOH, obviously we practiced together for so long. We were on board about what we wanted to do the entire time. And I did kind of feel that when you messaged me, telling me that you were evicting me and not using the veto, I kind of felt a little bit used. The audacity to use me to get out this power play and be like, bye, you're next. And I was like, oh, these hoes have no loyalty here. The breath was taken from my body. Which, not saying I don't respect the move. I understand why I went. That was never the issue. It was just, I did feel hurt by that. So with that, was there a different way you could have handled that?
Wait, sorry. Oh, Louise, you're breaking up.
I think I'm back.
Was there a different way I could have what?
Just handled that, do you think?
The whole situation, like you evicting you and all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, I will admit that you winning HOH, if it would have been me or Caro, any of us three, like it would have been, it's what I needed to happen. I needed Kadri to go there. I was not going to let Jeff go there at that point, but it worked out that you guys already wanted Kadri to go. Was going to try to convince you to lean that way anyway, but luckily you guys were already leaning that way. I knew that Jeff was going to prioritize me over Olivia versus I wasn't so sure about Kadri. Pretty sure he was always going to prioritize Olivia over me, and also had a very close relationship with Jeff. And he was just someone that had to go for my game at that point. So you winning HOH there, we were all together, you know how happy we were, because also part of me was so happy to see the underdogs, which I kind of saw us three as people just hadn't had as much like visible power, I guess, like throughout the game, coming together to take out one of the big like people that won 8 of the HOH comps and take them out and be like, hey, we can play too. Like, we're here too. Look at us. That was a very special moment for me. Like, I loved talking with both of you and having that round. But for me, the next round, it was always going to be you or Olivia in my mind that had to go out there. Even before like you won HOH, I was like, Louise or Olivia need to go here. Why it ended up being you, again, I kind of already addressed this, but in my mind, and I told you also in our messages, it wasn't the best message. I do wish I would have gotten on a call with you again and kind of more so expressed why I felt like I had to evict you or not use the veto and evict you over putting up Olivia and evicting her. I wish I would have gotten on a call and explained that, because my message also didn't explain it very well. You were like, so are you evicting me? I was just like, I was very embarrassed. But yeah, so I definitely could have handled that better, and I wish I would have gotten on call with you. But in my mind, again, you had to go there. You did say to me, Elise, like, I will take you to the end over Caro. Like, I'll take you over to the end over all these people. And I wanted to believe you. I don't know for sure if it was true. I'm curious, actually, if it was true. But I just felt in my soul, my gut, that wasn't true. I felt in that moment, of course you're going to say whatever you need to say to stay. Like, you had to do that. You knew you knew if the veto wasn't used, you were going home. You were very aware of that. I knew in my heart that you were going to take Caro to the end over me. Caro was probably going to take you over the end, because I could just tell that you guys had created this close bond together. And I was always going to kind of be the third wheel of that. So by taking you away from Caro, it opened up the door for me and Caro to then be closer, because I knew Olivia and Caro weren't that close. So it's what I needed to happen in order for me to squeeze through that crack and have Caro and me go to the final four and then final 3 together. And she did say she was going to take me to the final 2. I don't know if that would have actually happened if she ended up winning. But yeah, so that's why I did what I did. I do wish, again, that I would have called you and told you more of my reasoning more thoroughly why I did what I did. But I don't regret evicting you right after you won, because I do think it was the right move for my game.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And for the record, me and Caro never had a final 2. We had actually discussed the fact that we probably wouldn't take each other because we shared a lot of the same votes. So I only promised one person final 2 in this game, and that was Anwar. So I would have taken you if that was the case. But I understand why you didn't. You basically said, even if you take me, I would probably lose to you. I can't argue against that reason. Good answer. Then Olivia. So this is my main grievance, I guess is a word, is that you said you knew about the Bridget vote the entire time, like for most of the day, right?
I knew the night before that things would lean towards evicting Bridget. I knew it was leaning that way. And by the way, people were acting towards me and the way I've experienced org votes before, I felt very confident that Bridget would go, and Kelly gave me some information on like names that were specifically leaning towards evicting Bridget.
Okay. So what I have to say about that is that one of my biggest pet peeves in games is I'm in a very, while I may not seem it, I'm a very sympathetic and emotional person. When someone is upset, I can't help but be upset too. When I told you that Bridget was going home, and I did leave it late, I'll be the first to admit, you definitely did cry. You explained to me that you felt so lost, so out of the loop. How much of that was emotional manipulation? Because while there were times that I could tell that you were being genuine, I would never say you're not. That we had personal talks as well that I know were very genuine. But how many times did you use your emotional side on me, would you say?
So every situation like that, there's always like a lot of truth to it. So for me, the part of the reason I was so emotional at the Bridget vote was because, number one, I didn't necessarily want Bridget to go. At that time, I did want Veronica to go first before Bridget. And not a lot of people talked to me throughout the day. They led me to believe that Bridget was going to be safe, or they didn't get on call with me to discuss the vote. Anwar talked to me the night before. Caro talked to me the day of on the phone. Not a lot of people did. And so I truly felt like nobody trusted me to tell me that information besides Kelly, but that's because Kelly and Kadri were both people that I had specifically expressed that I would be willing to get rid of Bridget to, and that I hadn't done with everyone else, because I did want people to think that me and Bridget were this very tight pair, to where when Bridget got evicted, it would look like it would weaken me a lot. And so it was maybe like 10% emotional manipulation, because I wanted to show you that people were not prioritizing me or telling me this information, which was true, with the exception of Kelly. And then Kadri wasn't really keeping track of like the votes throughout the day. We didn't really like talk about it like that. He just told me I would prefer Bridget, and like, here are the numbers I think I have. And initially I didn't think that they were there. And Kelly confirmed to me later that, these are kind of there. And so I really did need, though, people to be telling me the truth, and people weren't. And that did make me feel very lost and very out on the outside. And that was true. So like, there was one person, who told me the truth where I could expect it. But the fact that I could expect it, and just the way I was treated by everyone else, I felt was very like, trying to hide the information from me. And that did make me feel left out and sincerely not prioritized by the majority of the House, and all of those emotions and all of that was true. And it's just that I did know that it probably was going to happen. And that's what worsened it, honestly, is that I knew it was going to happen. And all these signs were coming for me throughout the day, to where I could see I wasn't going to get told. People weren't going to fill me in. People weren't even going to talk to me to hear about my opinion on why I thought maybe Veronica going first would be better. And so all of that was sincere and real emotion. And that's where I channel it from. But I'm not afraid to be vulnerable with people about those real vulnerabilities that I am experiencing, even if I'm not, providing the full information, because that is a strategic move, but it is sincere, but like in this game, there's always things where you need to put them in a certain light more than another, and so that is the truth about that situation. And and I also even psych my own self out, like in different situations. Like, I've been psyching myself out that I have no shot to win this game for the past few rounds, in an effort to make myself appear not as threatening. And deep down, I knew I would have the ability to win if I got here and could talk about my game, but I wasn't even letting myself believe that, because I didn't want other people to believe that I believed that. It's kind of, this weird thing that I do with myself, but it is, sincere, but is slightly, showing that I'm weak in portraying that to players to lower my threat level.
Well, it is funny that you talk about, having to have people, or knowing that you could win it if you got to this point, because my last question for both of you is a very straightforward one. Won't take you very long to answer. Do you think you're going to win? And also, what do you think the vote count will be? Just roughly.
Do you have which one?
Elise, you can go first.
Okay. Oh my god, wait. Also, can I just say quickly, Josh, can I pee after Louise goes? Because I'm going to die.
I'm so glad you said that because so do I.
Okay, good. I've been like, can I hold it to the end? No, I'm gonna die. Okay. Sorry, Louise.
You're good.
Yes, I do think I can win this game. It's taken me some work to gain the confidence to believe it myself. But I know that I played a great game. I know that I did everything I did very deliberately and with purpose. And of course, we all make mistakes. None of us played a perfect game. But I do think that I played well enough to get me here. And I think I played well enough to win and beat Olivia. I'm just really happy to be here. I'm so proud of myself, and this is just very all exciting. But yes, I do think I can win this game, and if I do, it'll be one of the best nights ever. Vote count. Gosh, how many people are even on the jury? 8?
9.
9. Oh my god, yeah, 9. Okay, my brain is not working. I think it is going to be very close. I think it might be a 5-4 vote, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Olivia?
Yes, I do really believe I could win this game. I have, not been telling myself a lot of that because I didn't, because, anything could happen. I could have not made it here. But I even more so after today, after everything I've gone through, after some of like maybe the not as encouraging responses from jurors, things have made me feel like, I do have a lot to prove and a lot to be more succinct at, which I didn't necessarily prepare for. But I think that through it all, the jurors, the jury really can see my game through everything that I've gone through to achieve this point, and through the pivots that I've made this game, through the adjustments, through the recovery, through the growing relationships when they need to be grown, that I have the ability to win this game and that I can gain the respect from the jury, and that my game is one that y'all would be proud of to represent the season. And I do think that that this is tough competition against Elise. I thought it was going to be tough competition against everyone because of how much I respect everybody in this game. But I think that I can win this game, and I think that it would possibly be a 5-4, maybe 6-3. 6-3 is kind of the area I see it landing in. But
I don't doubt that it'll be close, and I say that because I honestly think that you two absolutely killed it. You have to be so proud of yourselves. Even if you don't win, you need to be so proud of yourself. This is such a hard decision to have to make. I still haven't made my mind up. Keep fighting, don't give up, and just good luck. Enjoy your pee.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you very much, Louise. All right, we will take a quick second. I'm going to let Jeff come on because he can be entertaining. While I also go and Elise goes. And then when Elise pops back on, Jeff. Yeah, Olivia too. Jeff, the floor is yours. I'm going to go pee as well. Oh, Crystal wants to come on. Crystal, Tay. Jeff,
hi. Yay. I was really awkward where everybody left. I was like,
come on here.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Hello, Tay.
Hi, Tay. I wasn't prepared. Okay, everyone drink because they're taking a bathroom break.
Did we have a bathroom break like this before? Like, I know we did one in season 13. Did we do one in the past 2 seasons? I don't remember.
Blake, I think so. Yeah.
Blake, I think for sure did one.
Okay,
I can't
because
remember
I
that. That was so
explicitly
long
was
ago.
like, I'd love to take a bathroom break.
I have only been sipping on water and not very much, so I'm good. I'm
Good
ready
on
to go.
you. I would never be able to go to sleep. I know I'd be up in a couple hours after that water. Aging. It's so fun.
I do have nights like that. I feel you, but I'm going to dry out my system completely.
Oh.
Yeah. Gracias, Mary. But
Like everything?
no, just my mouth will be incredibly dry by the end of this reunion.
You're getting a colonoscopy.
I was like, you're going sober.
No, I am no.
What did I just hop into?
Oh,
I've had a colonoscopy. Fun fact.
Oh no, you're too
Yeah,
young.
I know.
Aw. We don't have to go further into it. I won't ask follow-up questions. Okay, they're back.
Oh,
Yay.
So I want to say I went to Buc-ee's for the first time ever
Congratulations.
yesterday.
I'm so happy for
It
you.
blew my mind. I was not ready for that. There was hundreds of people shopping at 11:30 at night. All right, it's getting late.
Hi. I'm going to start off the same way that you guys did and first commend Prod on an incredible season. I'm so thankful that I got to be a part of it. I'm also going to say congratulations to both of you. You definitely deserve to be here, and you should be very proud with the games that you have played. I am going to also take a second to commend both the jurors before me and the one after me in making this game an incredible game all the way through. It's been a fantastic ride. We're almost done. Great job to both of you. I'm going to let you know I'm not a freebie. I feel like a lot of people have kind of been maybe not tame on questions, but I have a lot of questions. I'm going to get to them really quickly. My vote is undecided. These questions will probably decide it for me, okay? These aren't going to be easy questions again. I'm going to start off with them, though. Elise, you said that throughout the game you felt that you were in a safer position. You said that one of the reasons why Olivia should not win is because they were always a target. However, from a outside standpoint, wouldn't that then make Olivia's story better to win? What is that situation not make her a winner? Why is she not a winner for that?
Why is she not a winner for being targeted?
For being targeted, yes.
Yeah, that is a good point. I do think Olivia played an amazing game. And when I was choosing again between Caro and Olivia, it was a very, 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 very hard decision because I knew that it was going to be a battle against either one of them because all three of us, and again, you said before, the prior jurors, the few jurors before, most of the jurors have played an incredible game, and it was going to be a hard fought battle at the end.
Don't do that. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I think Olivia and I played very different games. I don't think necessarily that her not being in as safe of a position means that she should win this game over me, or she deserves to win more than me in this game. I think we played very, very different games, and that's why I wanted to sit next to her. I wanted to be able to differentiate myself and show, both sides of the game, that how you can play these games. Like you don't have to just play one way. And I think that for her, she just wasn't in, I mean, this is hard to say, she just wasn't in as good of a spot. She didn't have as much influence as I did, as like with everybody in the cast. And she was, not saying she wasn't in a good spot, she was in a good spot, but I just believe that I was in a better spot throughout, not having this fear that I was going to be put up on the block and get evicted, which that's a huge thing to be able to do. That is not an easy feat to be able to create and these bonds with people, make these relationships with everybody in the game. It's exhausting, as you guys know, to talk to everybody and create these personal relationships. It is not easy in any way to set yourself up in the position where you are not really going to be put on the block by anyone, where you are not going to get targeted. It is something that you have to balance between not being seen as like, or being seen as like, oh, this person's just not around and not active, to also like trying to lower your threat level, but you want to still be around and be a presence. And that was something I fought to maintain throughout the entire game. I wasn't just kind of like, meh, whatever happens, happens. Everything was calculated.
My bad, I'm sorry y'all heard all of that.
Everything that I did was calculated. And I do think that Olivia played an amazing game, and she has made great points on why she maybe should win this game. But again, I think that I played better, and I think that my positioning throughout the game from start to finish was pretty much perfect. Of course, I made mistakes. I'm not saying I played a perfect game, but I was never in danger. And the fact that I was able to do that is huge. So yes, sorry, I will stop.
Yeah, because I have a bunch of questions. I want to get through all of them. I want to give Olivia as much opportunity to answer my questions as I give you. Olivia, you said that you had to fight to get here, even though you did everything to lessen your threat level. However, you never like you try to lessen your threat level, but you always had one. So what about you do you think is the reason why, even though you did everything from throwing comps to respectfully, you just said this manipulating of emotions and stuff like that. What do you think, all of those things taken into account, what was the reason why at the end of the day you were still probably one of, if not the biggest threat left in the game, final 6, final 5, final 4 up until this point?
Okay. So I want to say it's not so much for me. What I tried to do by lessening my threat level wasn't necessarily emotional manipulation. It was showing you all and trying to portray that you had power over me, that you had more information in the game, that you had more influence. When I showed my insecurities, which were real, you know, it was by showing those was to let other people in the game feel like, even though I was this big threat, that I had been taken down. I had lost my power. You all can have the power. You can have your influence over me. But please don't target me. Please allow me to move forward in the game with you, because I'm not the big bad I once was my strategy. And I think it worked very well. And what was your question again? Just really quickly. Sorry.
What was it that what's the thing about you that still made you such a threat? Like one of, if not the biggest threats in the later end of the game, even though you spent all of that time, like I said, trying to minimize your threat level.
Yes. Okay. And even with doing all that, you know, minimizing my threat level, everyone else in the game was still a threat. So I tried to elevate their threat level, show them how even if I was a threat, I could be a threat in a way that was like sort of a shield for them, but maybe they still had the numbers, or maybe they would still be winning the comps to where they would have the power over me. And I wasn't necessarily going to upset their balance and upset their game. I didn't want the other threats in the game to see me, even though I was a threat to them, a threat to their game. I wanted them to see me as someone who they could move forward and continue to work with. And while Elise has said they had a very strong position in the game, they were in a position of power, and they were able, you know, to hold that and not necessarily be targeted. You all saw my plan A, my plan B, my plan C. I did not have I had an exhaustive list of options and ways that I could see myself moving through this game, because of the social relationships I built, because of the strategic relationships I built, and how I showed people how there were other targets other than me, and how I could be a potential asset to their game. And so I continually molded and adapted, even when things didn't go my way. And I was able to maintain that threat. I maintained a threat level because I did continue to do well in comps, because I knew my position was never necessarily guaranteed. And I wanted to show that I had the possibility to win a competition and to, you know, show what I wanted to do. And even though I didn't, it didn't even matter, because people still wanted to side with me and wanted to keep me in the game and saw me as still someone who could potentially further their game. Like Caro and I formed a very strong relationship, actually, the final 5 on. We studied for that comp. I shared with Caro my spreadsheets so that we could beat you in the final 4. And I think Caro was really questioning whether or not to bring me, and ultimately had maybe decided to bring Elise. But I had everybody questioning. That's what I always did, is I had people questioning, oh, maybe I should keep Olivia. Maybe it's okay if Olivia stays. You know, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I can get Olivia's vote. You know, maybe I can beat Olivia in a competition, because look at her crush under the pressure. I always wanted to leave that possibility of us working together, and the uncertainty that I was really a threat to you, to your game. And I think that I executed that well enough, to the point where Elise brought me here to the final 2, because I wasn't too much of a threat to their game and to them winning this season, when in reality, I think that I am, and I think I always have been. And I've been able to convince a lot of the players in this game that I wasn't such an immediate and critical threat for them to take out. And I was able to survive round by round through my own personal actions, strategically and socially. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Great answers, both of you, for those questions. These next 2 are going to be quick hitters, just a little bit something lighter to take off. I only want one answer, or not one answer, one word. Think about it for a second. One word, please. This one shouldn't be very difficult. Olivia, I'm going to start with you. Who was the person person, singular, not group, not two people. Who was the singular person that you were closest to in this game?
Jimbo.
Thank you. Elise, same question.
You.
Thank you. Next one. What adjective would you use to best describe the quality of your game? One word only. Take a second to think about it. I started with Olivia last time. Elise, I'll start with you.
I would say adaptive.
Like it. Olivia?
Um,
It is not cheating to use the same one if you want to, because that was a good one.
I know. I was almost going to use something else.
I even saw your face when they said it. So
I know. One thing I would use to describe my game.
just an adjective.
Besides, yeah, adaptive.
Again, you can use the same one.
Here's my word. Relentless.
Like it. I would agree with you, Elise, on adaptive. I think that's a wonderful one. Olivia, I think resilient is a better one for you. I think that you faced a lot of adversity, got it through. Elise, your adaptiveness kept you out of those same situations. Yes, relentless and resilient are both very, very similar words.
Thank you for the suggestion.
This question was originally for not you two, because I was genuinely surprised to see you at the final. That is not to say anything against either one of you. I just really, really, in all honesty, no disrespect to either one of you, expected Caro to be here. And that is just a testament to the game that she played. So I still decided to keep this question because it is still relevant. You both ended up lying this season for whatever reason. My question, and I'm going to start with you, Olivia. It's a two-parter. What lie was the one that progressed your game the furthest? And then what was the lie that at the end of it, you realized you really didn't even need to tell?
Okay. I think the lie that progressed my game the most was pretending like I was fully out and had no idea that Bridget was going to be evicted.
Okay.
And the lie that I didn't need to tell was, let's see. Perhaps trying to convince people that me and Jimbo weren't close. I really didn't do a good job of that.
That's a fair answer. Absolutely. I will accept it. I'll take that one 100%. Elise, yeah. Oh no, we were really close, and then we kind of had a falling out, and I don't really know what they're doing anymore. Okay. Elise, same question for you. What was the lie that you feel progressed your game the furthest, and which one was the one you realized that you didn't need to tell?
I think the lie that progressed my game the furthest, it's not so specific to like a very specific instance, but I don't know if this is acceptable for you. Let me know if it's not. I can choose something else.
Sure.
But that I, wasn't really kind of set in my end game plan, I guess. I made it kind of seem that I would go with anyone, that I would do whatever, that it doesn't matter to me, like what happens. I tried to portray that to a lot of people, throughout the game, also just kind of trying to make it seem like I just wasn't as close to people as I actually was. That was kind of a continuous lie that I told to a lot of people, especially our relationship. I know it didn't end up really working out in the end because everyone realized we were close, but really, really trying to actively downplay how close we were. I tried to do that with Olivia because she was sharing things about how she felt nervous about you. Caudry was saying the same things. And I was very much trying to downplay our relationship because I knew how much everybody saw you, how much of a threat you were in other people's eyes. And I didn't want to tie myself too closely to you because then I was worried that people were going to be like, oh, well, we can weaken Jeff by taking out Elise. So definitely those, I think, trying to minimize our relationship and just kind of trying to hide is what progressed me the furthest. And what lie did I not have to tell? Probably, this wasn't really a lie. I do wish that I would have been able to tell Caro before I evicted her that I had changed my mind.
Okay.
So yeah, that's probably it. I wish I feel like I wish I would have handled that differently.
Okay. I respect both of those answers from both of you. This I feel like is going to be a heavier on one person than the other question, but I'm curious to see if it affects both of you the same. Elise, you talked about bad luck. I don't think that was it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. So I want to know if you could give me a number of the comps that you threw.
Oh God. I actually did not throw as many as one would think. It's true. I swear.
Okay.
I came in second. If you look at the scoring chart, I came in second and third in a lot of comps, and it was not at an failing effort.
I'm gonna push the pace a little bit on us. Just
okay.
It's getting...
There are two specific points that I threw. First of all, I did not want to win the first HOH. I threw that. Second of all, I threw the second HOH very clearly. I'm sure you and Kelly all threw that. Getting 6 is a terrible score.
I mean, come on. There's no way we didn't.
No one got that up, but we definitely all threw that.
Yeah.
And then the last competition that I did not want to win, but I did not throw, was the final veto where you got evicted because I
didn't want the pressure. Gotcha.
I didn't know. I knew in my heart, I knew in my brain that you had to be evicted there. I knew that I could not sit at the end with you, but we had formed such a close relationship and close bond. We had made that final 2 together, and I knew how much you meant it. And I wanted you to succeed in this game, but I just knew that there was no way that I was going to be able to sit next to you. So I did not try my very best in that final veto. Because I did not want to have to evict you in that scenario.
Josh did just yell at us, and we still have one more juror in closing statements. Olivia, your answer, how many did you throw?
Let me get through this real quick. So I threw the round 4 HOH, the cliffhanger one that you won. I also threw the round 5 HOH, deal or no deal. I also threw Bridget's OTEV, that veto. I also, psyched myself up enough that I would get the no vacancy answer wrong. I didn't I subconsciously threw it for myself. It was weird, but I kind of didn't want to, but that was a mixed one. And then let me see what other comps there were. I didn't get to compete in a lot of vetoes until the end game. But I think that is it, except for that I was totally comfortable with both Elise and you winning the auction HOHs to the point where I wasn't going to waste any of my coins on either of them.
Great. My last question. I'm sorry, Josh, I've taken so long.
Oh my gosh, you have a minute and a half.
Perfect. This alternate timeline. Olivia first. You're in the jury. Who's the 2 people that you think, if you weren't up here, who are the 2 people in the jury that you think deserve to be up here? Go.
Caro and that deserve to be up here. Yeah, Caro, and then maybe you, Jeff. I think that you played a very good game to where you convinced me to not come for you as hard as I had wanted to previously.
Sure. Elise, same question.
For me, it's Caro and Caudry, or Caro and you, or Caudry and you. It's like some sort of mix of you 3.
Sure. Great. Wonderful answers to all my questions. I really appreciate you guys. Josh, I'm so sorry I went over so long.
Okay.
I'm going to get out of here. Okay.
I would have let you go, but all right. Bye, Jeff. You're out. Last but not least, it's Caro.
Hello, Elise and Liv. Just want to say I love you both so much. I think I really enjoyed the past, 2 rounds. I know that me and you, Liv, we kind of came together, and I feel like that was genuine, and I enjoyed that. So I have a couple questions for both of you. I'm definitely still undecided, I'm not gonna lie. Especially after, trying to work through the emotions of everything. So I'll start off with Elise, because I definitely just need a little clarity, and this is just specific to you. So, I heard you mention that you sort of decided last minute to change your mind to evict me, but I am now realizing your game is very tactical and how you envisioned your end game. And I don't know, it's hard to believe that you ever truly wanted to sit with me. So I just need yes or no. If in those moments that we spoke today or previous moments leading up to it, like I know we didn't have a final two, but when you said you were 100%, like there's nothing that's going to change
Yeah.
your mind to go to the end with me, did you mean that 100% when you spoke?
I believed it in the moment when I told you, yes. And once I started thinking, it was really hard. Our games were just too similar in my mind for me to be able to differentiate. I've said this word a million times, differentiate, but it was when I told you that, it was true. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. And then I'll have the same question for both of you. I'll give it to Liv now to start it off. So I just want you each to highlight a weakness in the other player's game. And to that weakness, point out how that factor was something that actually did well in your game.
Yeah. So for me, a weakness that I saw in Elise's game is while Elise has like talked about how they did a very good job of like staying in the middle and really, having, a lot of people that were talking to them and that they were close to. I actually felt like really let down by Elise a lot of times when it came to telling me information where it's like they had made me all these like, promises and assured me, but I didn't feel like all the time it was totally there. Like I totally expected Elise to tell me about the Bridget eviction and they didn't. And and I expected them to be there were a lot of instances that I can't name them all where I expected them to come to me and tell me the information and they didn't. And that made me trust them less. It showed me specifically that I wasn't quite as much of a priority to them as I once believed. And I think that that is something that they slacked on consistently. Like when I went up on the block during the Kelly eviction, I expected to be told like, oh my gosh, I'm so like, when it was me and Jimbo, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Olivia, we'll get you off the block. Everything was so late and so delayed because I knew conversations were happening with other people that showed me specifically when I wasn't prioritized and when I needed to pivot in other directions away from Elise and strengthen other relationships. And I think that that weakness is something that I try to avoid as much as possible. I always try to tell people to talk to people when they went on the block and said like, good luck in this competition, and always tried to show that like I was there and that I saw what was happening in the game and that I was someone that they could talk to when they went up on the block or just trying to offer some encouragement. And that's something where I felt was really weak for Elise at a lot of times, particularly with me. I don't know how it was with everybody else, but but that's how I started feeling progressively throughout the game that I think is a weakness that I tried to make sure that I was always there in responding to people in DMs and not leaving them on red and not going and having conversations with other people. Like I may have it at times, but that's something that I was consciously trying to, not do as much as possible and to show people that I prioritize them and that a lot of other, like it wasn't all these other people that, like I just wanted to show that I prioritized people. And I don't think Elise did that as well with me at least. And I think maybe they didn't do that as well with other people too.
Okay, so the weakness in your eyes was communication in those aspects.
Yeah.
And I would like to counter. I do think that Olivia is wrong in saying that my communication was one of my weaknesses. I think it was one of my strengths. We're all human. I may have slacked and left some people on red at certain points throughout the game. Like I'm sure all guilty of that. Replying to one person and not replying to someone else because you're not quite sure how to answer that person in that second and you need a little bit of time to think. But I always congratulated people for winning competitions. I was always trying to encourage people and be there for people to talk to. And I very strongly believe that I was there as a person that people could come to and talk to about their emotions and feelings. And if people disagree, that is okay. But I feel like I very much tried to be that person. And when people were coming to me with emotions, to try to stay neutral and not even like influence or put my game onto them too much, because when I wanted them to just, be able to vent to me. So yeah, I do disagree with Olivia on that point, but I will get into my my answer to your question now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think as much as Olivia says she tried to kind of minimize her threat level and she tried to hide certain things that she was doing, like she said with her relationship with Jimbo and who she was close to, and that she threw comps, like, Caro, we discussed that we knew for a fact that Liv had thrown those comps. Those were things that were very much openly discussed with people. It was also something that I discussed with Jeff and other people, that Liv was definitely still very close with Jimbo and she just was not hiding it very well. So I think that that was a huge weakness for her, that she did attempt to do these things, and in some ways sometimes they were effective, but other times it just didn't come across correctly. You could tell that she was throwing competitions. You could tell she really still had those relationships with people. You still knew that she was a huge threat. We all knew that Olivia had this huge like threat perception, that she had played a great game. That never dissipated. You were able to lower it to the point where you got here, but I just don't think that you did it as well as you maybe have been saying. And I think when it comes to me, I was able to minimize my threat level to such an extent that pretty much everybody wanted to take me to the final two. I think a lot of people have, again, seen that I said that I don't have a backbone, that I didn't have conviction, that I wasn't sure of myself in this game. But that's very much not true. I purposefully kind of tried to make myself seem like this aloof, go with the flow kind of person so that people would view me that way. Did not think it would get to this extreme level, but I did have a backbone, and I think I was very good at minimizing my threat level, minimizing my relationships with people. It kind of fell off a little bit with my relationship with Jeff at the end, where you guys all knew that we were close. But for most of the game, I was able to do that, and nobody knew exactly how close I was to a lot of different people. So yeah, that is my answer.
Okay, thank you. And then I do have one more question, different questions for each of you. So Olivia, I think you did play a really resilient game. I actually told you that about a couple hours ago when we were discussing what we would do if we won the comp. So I think you played a very resilient game, a very cunning game that was seen early on in the game. Obviously, you were on the block multiple times. And so to that point on your resilience in this game, can you just highlight to me how you were able to socially recover and get yourself back in through cracks to improve your position in the game?
So one way I was able to do that is there were some relationships for me that like were decent enough working relationships, for example, like with you, Caro, and with Luis, and even with like Jeff for a long portion of the game, where, maybe I had spread some rumors or expressed to other people distrust, but I tried to be upfront with the reasons why I had those feelings with you all, and wasn't trying like to hide that had happened, because I don't think that you can progress games forward without kind of, talking about what had happened in the past and why it happened. That's something I did with Anwar as well, is just talking to you all about like where our game relationships maybe got more rocky, why it happened, and, how I lacked and how other people's, words and stuff fed into all of that, to where I was able to have those discussions with people and show, weak points and show how I could grow from them, and how we both, all those relationships, how they could grow. And I think that is why I was able to reintegrate myself after I lost some of my allies earlier on. And so I was able to reintegrate myself in that way. And even though, maybe I had some secrets that weren't as good of secrets, I didn't feel like it was a total hindrance to my game to have that. I didn't need to go and like fix every little, thing. And I just still felt that by recovering that and by having that transparency and leaving like something open and showing that there's always potential, was able to really keep me in this game and keep me resilient and keep me as an open option for people without burning those bridges and without like drawing those harsh lines or showing that there was conflict that couldn't be resolved. That's what I always try to do in games, is show that if there's ever any conflict, if anything is ever misunderstood, you can always talk to me about it, and we can always try to resolve it. And I think that was what allowed me to be someone who could still be present in the game, and not as, even though I was a threat, not as pressing to take out, because I always left possibility and left openness in my game, in my relationships with people. And yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Okay. I mean, I will say that I think we had this conversation with each other in which I expressed similarly, and I kind of left the door open to work together after events that happened in the game where obviously it was not beneficial to us. And I don't know that I fully feel that after I extended that olive branch, you actually re-extended it back out to me and took me on that. Because if you would have, I think we could have worked a lot more closer, a lot sooner.
So if I could just answer that, I was sincere about that, but I still knew that we had like game conflicts where like allies that had different opinions. And it wasn't necessarily that I had conflict with you, Caro. It was that I could see how maybe you were, you know, a threat to still some of my allies' games, or were working with people that I could see as a threat to me, like Anwar and Luis. I thought y'all were close, and that I couldn't necessarily fully harness the relationship that we could have together until some of those pieces were like removed. So there always was some hesitancy with respect to like that, which is just something I had to keep aware of like how many numbers did you have versus how many numbers did I have? And when it felt to me like, you know, we had numbers that were working in the same direction, then things become more open. But I always have to protect myself first, even though I try to keep those open relationships. I'm not going to give away so much power that I lose my own footing, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you for that, Olivia. And then last question for Elise. So I want you to highlight a moment where you were not in power, meaning you didn't have win veto, HOH, but you pushed for an outcome in nominations or votes to show that you had influence in the game. So I am like removing myself from the hurt of you like lying straight to my face and having that feeling, but I'm struggling to understand, you know, the perception of like what I thought of hiding behind strong players and just seeming like you were along for the ride because you knew you were protected, and coming off almost indifferent about certain outcomes. So if you could just show me an example, that would be
And
great.
I would like to say I didn't lie to you straight to your face. I was not lying when I spoke to you earlier. I can say that genuinely. I was not lying to you. I would just like to point that out there right off the bat.
Okay.
Secondly, yes. So while I may not have been like physically or like visually in power for a lot of the game, I did have influence throughout, and it was just like little things that I would say to people that just kind of pushed things forward and pushed the agenda that I wanted to happen. With like, we can look at I mean, again, Veronica versus Jimbo. Veronica had to go because she was close with Anwar. I had spoken to Anwar after live night when I put him up that I wanted to work with him and I wanted to keep that door open with us. And that was very genuine, what I said to him. And I knew that in order for that relationship to potentially blossom, Veronica had to go as a factor. Jimbo and Olivia, Jimbo versus Olivia. Jimbo, I wanted to keep my relationship with Olivia as well. I had a feeling that she wanted to take me to the end. And Jimbo, again, as much as she tried to minimize that relationship, I knew that they were still close. I knew that they had gotten a very, very strong relationship that they had built very early on. And I knew that he was someone that had to go. Kadri, again, someone that I pushed for to go. You were there with me, you and Louise. He was someone that I felt very, very strongly he had to go at that exact moment. He didn't win veto. We knew how strong of a competitor he was. And I was never going to let Jeff go over Kadri in that situation. But again, and I have brought this up multiple times, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the biggest situation where I feel like I kind of, you know, push forward my initiative and what I wanted was with the Kelly vote. And I feel like it wasn't quite a Jeff, we need to take out Kelly because blah, 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 she's the biggest threat ever, because I did not want it to appear as though I was like so strongly or like telling him what to do, because I knew that wasn't going to come across well. I very much tried to not do that throughout. My way of influencing and getting the way things to happen the way I wanted was done through little things that I would say to people, subtle comments, subtle, like all subtle sorts of things. I didn't want to appear like I was dominating or dominant over anybody, because I knew that, again, that was going to make me appear more of a threat. So I made myself just kind of like this little, you know, non-threatening bunny rabbit that, you know, like wasn't going to threaten anyone's game or like come after them and really like ruin their game for them. But I was always there whispering in people's ears, telling them things, pushing my agenda. It was always there. It was just in a subtle way. And I know that that is maybe hard for some people to take and be like, that is a deserving game to win. But after playing 3 orgs in the past and getting cut at 6, 7, and 4, never being able to make it through that end game, playing more flashy, more out there, more like dominant, controlling games, which I am very capable of doing. I have those strategic chops, but I purposefully chose in this game to minimize that, because I knew, I mean, I am here in the final 2, that for me, specifically me as a person, to get to the end, I had to do that. I had to make those changes. I couldn't appear dominant because I'm already very social. I talk to a lot of people. I just like to get to know people. And that comes across as threatening. So to then also add in the strategic game aspect to it, where I'm always talking game, I'm always like, this, we should do this because this reason and blah, 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 blah. Those thoughts were always running through my brain. I just didn't tell them to people, because if I did that, then it could potentially spread around that, oh, Elise is, you know, more of a strategic threat than we thought. So these were things that were always inside me, always running through my brain, but I just couldn't let that out. And that's why I'm happy to get to this point and be able to plead my case to you guys and explain my game to you, because it was there. I just chose to do it very subtly. But I voted correctly every single time. And I said again at the beginning, every single person went home in the placement I wanted them to go, except for Michael and Bridget. Those are the only 2 that I was kind of like, Michael especially, I did not want him to go that early.
I'm gonna push the pace again on us a little bit. Sorry,
gosh. Bridget, in that case, I knew I had to let her go, but ideally she would have stayed like a round or 2 longer.
Okay, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Caro.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Caro. All right, we are down to our final statements. I am going to police the 10 minutes this time because we are getting late. So if you don't need all 10, don't take all 10. And that's the advice I'll give you. But Olivia will be first. Then we'll hand it to Elise. Olivia, your time starts.
I want to start by thanking you all for your questions this evening. I really appreciate them all. I think that, being reflective about my own game experience and the way that you all perceive it is always something that I've been trying to do throughout this game, and trying to think about, how are people perceiving me? How can I alter their perception of me so that I can continue to move through this game? And I think that I did hold actually a very powerful position throughout this game. I did have influence and I did have voting power at many times during this game. And I was very connected with people who are in power. And so a lot of these targets that went out that benefited Elise also benefited me. And I want to make it clear that every time I went on the block, I knew I wasn't going home. I could count the votes that I knew I would have, and I knew I would be fine as long as I catered my pitches to what was going on in the game. I was able to get a lot of information early on in the game due to some of my prior connections, and also by trying to make connections with people who I knew were connected to people that I wasn't. For instance, with Jimbo, the close relationship we had, I knew he was really connected with Anwar and Veronica and with Jacob, and that was something that then I could use as a channel of information. And that's what I did throughout this game, was trying to keep my channels of information open. Were there times when things were kind of going around that I didn't necessarily know about with votes? Sort of, but some of it was pretty transparent to where I knew what was going on in the game. I knew what people's agendas were. I knew who they were going to target next. I knew how they were going to move forward. And I made sure that I could adapt my game to those things consistently, no matter who would be winning HOH. And I was also confident in my comp abilities, that if I got in such a terrible position that I wouldn't have the votes to stay on some sort of block, that I could maybe be able to win. But I didn't even need to at all the times I was on the block. And also, I, in some ways, volunteered even to go on the block. When Jeff needed to put somebody up, I was like, Jeff, it's okay. Because you know what? I knew I had the votes. I knew Elise would save me. I knew Kadri would save me. And then I had already spoken to Elise and with Caro and Luis when it was the final 6, and I knew Kadri was going to be a primary target, to where if I went up there, I would be fine. And so I told Luis, it's okay. I would have evicted Kadri if that was the case, but you can put me up and it's fine, because I knew I would have the votes to say. And I was even able to convince Jeff to not put me up in the final 5, or he wasn't going to anyways. But like, I was able to work on those relationships that maybe weren't as strong for me in the beginning of the game, strengthen them with the end game. And even though these people knew I was a threat that was working with other people earlier on or had closer relationships, they still let me in, and they still let me get by, and they still let me get to this point. Everything I did in this game was extremely calculated, to the point where I would be able to have my path A, my path B, and my path C. Like, I always made sure I would stay against my allies. I really tried to make sure that I would always strengthen enough relationships to the point where I would stay, and I wasn't necessarily scared to go up on the block. And I was not afraid to speak my opinion and to make votes happen, like with the Stan vote or with the Michael vote, and speak my opinion and make these connections with other people and give them ammo and information. It's not something I was afraid to do, because I was okay with like chaos reigning in this house. I didn't need to be indifferent or to hide a lot of my agendas or ways I wanted to get the game to go, to be perfectly protected. I was able to let sensitive information about my game get out, lie about it when people knew I was lying about it, but they still didn't want to get rid of me, because I was trying to show them that they could still have the power over me, when really I knew I always had a grasp on the way that the house dynamics were. I had a very good feeling of who was working together and who was targeting each other, to where I could use all of that information, and I could use my position in the game to talk to people about those things and why I was still a benefit for their game moving forward. And even with my competition ability, the way I placed high consistently, even when I was trying to throw, that apparently was very transparent. And I really did fuck up the 21-10. Like, that was a true mistake, but partly because I was psyching myself out. But yeah, and to where like there were these competitions that I wanted to win, just to show myself that I could win and I could do something and continue to move forward with the game. But even if I didn't win, okay, that's fine. What was my plan B? Because every step of this game, I was like, if this person wins, then what? How do I pivot? If I lose this competition, how do I pivot? Who's going to go up? Consistently, I was evaluating every single scenario. I was trying to talk to people and give them my honest opinion without being too indifferent, but also without totally misleading people. I tried my best not to make promises I wouldn't keep, to show when I was being indecisive and still hearing things out, because my game wasn't trying to deceive people and make them believe that I was like totally like always there for them, unless I really was. So that is something I also tried to do throughout this game. And I think it's pretty amazing and pretty admirable that I was able to come out so strong. I really was insecure about my game position. When that 6-person alliance formed, I said, I want to destroy it because then that's public information that those people could be possibly working together. And I just consistently would pick up on those little things to where I could tear apart these relationships that I knew were existing. And that would further me up on these people's list and be like, okay, now we don't need to target Olivia as much because she's lost these allies that she had previously. And now I need Olivia more, and maybe I need to target her other allies. But I would constantly pivot throughout the game to make sure that I stayed in the game with connections that would save me and keep me safe on the block, or there were people who wouldn't even put me up on the block at various points in the game. And I think I was able to do that so well to the point where I did not need to win this competition to get to the final 2. And that was all such purposeful, like, talking and persuasion that I did to make people think that they could beat me and that I didn't have as much power and I didn't have as good relationships with the jury. And I was telling Elise and Caro all day, your games are so similar. Look at all the things that you did that make your games so well. And that was able to get me here with the chance to talk to all of you, which is what I wanted to do because I knew when I came into this game that I was a capable player. I knew that I had things to prove to myself and to prove to lots of people who watch orgs that I am strategic and I am I'm not just this socially savvy person that talks to everyone and is threatening and always gets taken out for being too big of a threat, but that I could bring it down and I could make ways for me to navigate this game while being a threat and while overcoming losing my allies and all these obstacles to where I was still able to get here. And I'm sorry, but I'm just so proud that I was able to prove that to myself and that I've gotten the chance to talk about my game to you all tonight. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you, Elise, and thank you for all the jurors who have been a part of my game. All of you have in different ways. And thank you for shaping this experience. And I had so much fun playing this game. I really did. And so thank you for making this experience fun. Thank you for making it competitive. Thank you for making it challenging. Thank you for making me fight for every second I had in this game. And that's all I've done. And I've never let up, and I would be so proud to be your winner tonight. And I just ask that you vote with respect to our games and who you want to represent your experience here. And I really hope that that's me and that I've shown you all my strategic capabilities and my social game and that I've overcome the odds and that I pivoted and I adjusted and I made it here to the end and that I deserve your vote to win Big Brother Hometown 16. And thank you all so much for this opportunity. And I hope that you can, acknowledge the things that I've spoken to about my game tonight. And I'm sorry if I wasn't succinct and I'm sorry if I rambled. I was never totally sure that I was going to get to this point, and I didn't want to hype it up to myself if it didn't happen. But I'm so proud that it did, and deep down I knew that it could and that it would if I continue to put my heart into this game, and I think I deserve to win it.
Thank you very much, Olivia. All right, Elise, it's on you now.
All right, everyone. I just want to start off. Thank you so much for your time. I know this is going on a really, really long time. We're almost at 2 hours and 45 minutes. But thank you guys so much for being here, for playing with us, for asking us your questions and listening to us ramble on to you about why we think we should win. You guys, along with us, made this season what it is and what it has been. And it's been so fun. And I've loved every minute of it. And so I just want to go into just a little bit more into specifics. So right off the bat with the very first round, I was, as Olivia mentions, put into this 6 alliance of the ridiculous 6. This alliance was more of okay, I'm just going to use this to keep myself safe, keep myself in a position where I could maybe work with these people for a second, but it's not really my ideal. The second that the whole Stan Robbie situation started to escalate, I was like, I need to distance myself from this as quickly as possible. And I ran around telling people like, yeah, Robbie and I, like, we're not close. Like, he's making all of these alliances. Like, the 6 is not a thing. I need you to believe that. Right with the very first vote, the Stan vote, I am the person that convinced Robbie to vote for Stan so that it was a unanimous vote. That was specifically because I bet all my coins that it would be unanimous vote. I didn't understand the whole betting on the 3 vetoes yet. It hadn't quite reached that point, but I was the one that managed to convince him to vote out Stan. I very, very specifically in that first round, like, I started to hear from people that the vote was turning, and I was afraid to tell Robbie myself. So I told Michael, who I then knew was going to go to Robbie on my behalf and tell him and broach the subject, so it would never be able to be traced back to me that I was the one that told Robbie, because Robbie was already, I knew he was going to become public enemy number 1 the next round, which he was. So I very carefully made sure that I told Michael and he told him, and then we all got on call and made that unanimous vote happen. Secondly, again, I knew in that second round that I had to distance myself from Robbie. I knew he had to go. I couldn't have any ties to him at all. He was just going to bring my game into the spotlight too much. I did not want people to think that the ridiculous 6 was actually a thing, because everybody already knew about it at that point, including because I had told people myself. The Michael versus Louise vote. This was probably the hardest point in my entire game for me to get through. Michael and I bonded incredibly strongly. I probably cried in front of maybe about 3 of you, maybe more, about how hard this round was for me. I did not want to vote out Michael. It was very, very difficult. But I knew, again, I was able to press down this emotion and recognize that maybe Michael going, like, yes, he's going to be a loyal, strong ally for me far into this game. But I already had a feeling that people knew we were close. I was already getting emotional about him going up on the block, and people knew that. People recognized that. Olivia said it herself. She knew that Michael and I were close. And I could not risk that relationship moving forward. And also with Louise, like, the tables were already turning towards Michael. I couldn't risk putting a limb out to try to save Michael in that situation and put too much of a spotlight on myself that early on in the game. With the Bridget and Veronica situation, with the Bridget vote, I was told about it that day, the day that it happened. I did do my best to try to kind of convince people why it shouldn't be done. But once I realized that the hope was lost and people were coming to me, and they already had their mind made up when they started talking to me, which was fine. I knew in my heart that Bridget had to go, because she, again, was someone that people had made a public enemy number 1, and I could not tie myself to her. I couldn't make myself, again, like, too much in people's eyes as like, oh my God, Elise is the one that wants to save Bridget. Like, that's so bad. That's so bad. Moving on from that, I had the power in the Jacob versus Veronica. That was the first time I had the power to put up who I wanted to put up and get out who I wanted to get out, just exactly. And it went exactly how I wanted it to go. I put up Anwar and Veronica, told them they were just pawns. I was able to convince Anwar and Jacob to not continue betting on the HOH, that they would both be safe, specifically with Jacob, that he would be safe in that situation. I'd never made a promise to him, though. You guys were there. You heard. I never promised him that he would not go up as a renom. But I was able to convince him to stop betting so that I could get that HOH and get him out, which is what I knew I needed to do. Moving on, Veronica versus Jimbo. I really wanted to work with Anwar. I wanted to keep Anwar in as someone who was going to go after people like Kelly, Olivia, and Jeff and Caudry, because he very, very strongly wanted to do that, and I wanted to keep that conflict in the game. But I couldn't have him being in too powerful of a position with having Veronica as a number, so I knew that she had to go there as well. Kelly versus Olivia, I've explained this many times throughout tonight. Kelly was a huge obstacle to my relationships with people, and she had to go. Anwar and Louise. Anwar, at this point, this was, again, one of the hardest decisions I had to make. I talked to Anwar. He pled his case to me on why I should vote to keep him. And I was very, very highly considering potentially voting to keep Anwar over Louise. And it wasn't, I don't want anyone to think like because I think at one point Olivia made a comment that like I let people hang out to dry too long. I didn't express my intentions early enough, and I just like kind of like whatever, just like leaving them thinking like maybe I'll save them. In this situation, I very much was not leaving Anwar out to dry. I wanted to hear what he had to say because I felt that deep emotional connection with him on a personal level and thought maybe that this could extend into a game level, but recognized again, Caudry and Jeff really wanted Anwar to go, and I couldn't risk going against the grain there. In that situation, it would have just blown up my game to the point where like I probably would not be here at this moment. Moving on, Jimbo and Olivia. Again, Jimbo and I have never really connected to the point that I maybe would have wanted. I really, really liked Jimbo right off the bat, but we just never got to that point. And I knew that he was close to Olivia, and he had to go again. Caudry versus Olivia. Caudry was a huge threat to win out to the end. He was close with Olivia. He was close with Jeff. Jeff even said to me that he didn't think that he would have been able to evict Caudry at any point, or maybe not until like the very, very end. And that was a huge red flag in my brain. I took in information that everybody told me, and I did not play a reactionary game. Like, I took information in, let it kind of settle in me, and I always made sure that I was making the decision that I thought was best for me, and I was letting out information that I thought was best for me. And I didn't want to let out too much information. I didn't want to not say enough so that people didn't trust me. All of this was extremely calculated and deliberate on my end. And I already talked to you guys about the end game, so I won't go into that. But I want to say that I really hope I don't want anyone confusing my gameplay as passive, because I don't believe that I played a passive game. I think that I played an adaptive and a flexible game, and that was what was necessary for me to get to this point. I did not just let things happen. I tried to appear as someone who would go with the flow, as someone who wouldn't get too upset, because I wanted to be that person that people could always come to, like, oh, hey, like we have this plan, we need you as a vote. So like I could always be that person for multiple people, for everyone in the game. I wanted to keep that positioning for as long as I possibly could, and I believe that I did that. Yeah, I was able to move through groups of people and consistently keep my positioning in the game as someone who wasn't a huge threat, and therefore I navigated my way through the game without really any worries of being targeted. I don't think really any people in this game, except maybe Caro, could say that they went through this game and was 100% certain, or like pretty certain, that they were never going to go up and that they were never going to be targeted. Olivia did say that she felt that way, but I do think there were points where you could have gone
10
home.
seconds.
And lastly, I just want to say, I wish I could have said more, but it's hard to get your thoughts together. But thank you guys so much again. I really hope that you vote for me to win. This would be everything to me. I fought so hard throughout this entire 27 days and 29 days, I think it's been. And yes, thank you. Sorry, I'll stop now.
All right. Elise, Olivia, well done tonight. This was a great battle back and forth. Very good. The jury has a difficult decision. You've done all you can do. All you can do now is wait, because we are going to wait. So jurors, please submit a video vote to the diary room as soon as possible. You've had plenty of time to make your decision, so please send your video vote. Now I'm going to hit a countdown. You have some time to chill. I'm going to send you guys backstage, and I'll hit a countdown. The countdown does not mean that when the countdown is over that we'll be back. It's just a placeholder and some music while we wait in the background. Which one do we want to play? Let's do this classic one. We'll be back for the reading of the votes in just a minute. Hi, we're almost ready. Give me a minute. All righty. We have the results. We have the votes in. All right. It is over. There's nothing else can be done. I have the votes. I know who won, which is a power. You guys fight for power all season. Now I have it for just half a second. What a great season. I've said this in the past, but it's very rare that 100% of the cast is, for lack of a better term, in the org world, active. This cast was that. Everyone was all in from the jump. The fact that Stan was the first boot goes to show what kind of season we had. It's been a lot of fun. I am incredibly thankful for the everyone on prod. Everyone brought a lot to the table this season. And I'd thank them all individually, but I don't have much of a voice right now. So I'm going to get to it because you guys know what you want at this point. You want me to read these votes. You want to see your name. It takes 5 to win it. Let's get on with it. First vote goes to Elise. Next vote goes to Olivia. It's 1-1. Next vote, Elise. That's 2 Elise, 1 Olivia. Next vote, Olivia. That is 2-2. Next vote, Elise. That's 3 Elise, 2 Olivia. Next vote, Elise. That is 4 Elise, 2 Olivia. And the next vote, and the winner of Big Brother Hometown Season 16. Congratulations, Elise. You are our winner. What an incredible back and forth tonight. A very well played game, Elise. You should be very proud of yourself. Olivia, you too, a stellar performance this whole season. I'm incredibly proud of everyone in the season, but especially the two of you. Fought tooth and nail. Let's bring Prod on. That's here to, help me talk when I can't.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congrats to both of you guys.
It's you both were
Excellent
incredible.
season, excellent finale.
Speechless, honestly. Oh my god. Thank you, everybody. Olivia, you are amazing. You played such an incredible game. And honestly, I was almost like, Olivia, you did so well tonight. Like your speech and everything, you sold it so well. Thank you, everybody, for voting for me. This is one of the most exciting and amazing moments of my life. I am so happy. I spent so much time this season just putting myself down and doubting myself, and it took a lot of time for me to gain that confidence, and you were all a part of that journey. A lot of you helping me and encouraging me, and I'm just really proud, and thank you so much for voting for me to win. I love you all.
All right, I think that about signs us off for this. There is a reunion Zoom that's going to happen right after this for the players. Everyone, thank you. Everyone's been watching. I think we can award fan favorite if is it who I think it is?
It's who we discussed earlier today.
Oh, well, then you say, because I wasn't paying attention. I don't want to wrongly.
Not this. Oh my god. Alrighty. Well, the top 3 vote getters in no particular order were Louise, Michael, and Kadri, but winning by a large majority. The VL's fan favorite this season is Kadri Walker from Houston, Texas. Well deserved, but we'll give him his hats, his roses when we get to the Zoom.
All right, thank you to everyone for the season. Thank you all the players, all of production. This has been a season, a life season for me that has been very busy. So I have been a little distant. So thank you to everyone who helped this run really smoothly. as always. We will be back for season 17 sometime. There's no official plan yet, but it will be happening, of course. Once again, thank you to everyone. Congratulations, Elise and Olivia. Quite frankly, 2 incredible games, 2 incredible players and people. And much love to everyone. But I'm signing off for Prod. I'm Josh.